The land began to change long before they reached the rift. Ember Deep, once a sea of scorched stone and blistering heat, had begun to rot into something older. The fire that once burned with life now smoldered in silence, as if the world had held its breath too long and forgotten how to exhale. Kale stood at the edge. It wasn't a crater. It was a wound. A spiral of broken terrain sank into the earth, layer after layer of black glass and cracked obsidian descending toward a chasm that glowed with a faint, unnatural crimson. Beside him, Drake tossed a pebble into the abyss. No echo. Nothing, he muttered. That deep, or that dead. Zara's hood caught the ember light, her eyes glowing faintly beneath it. Tier A dungeon. Rift type. Hunters steer clear for a reason. The aura here doesn't flow, it pools. Whatever's waiting down, there has been feeding for centuries. Lyra adjusted her veil, golden light glinting across her hands. Any chance it's dormant? Kale's hand brushed the hilt of the Graveblade. No, it's waiting. They began the descent. Layer 1, the scorched stairs. Silence greeted them like a living thing, thick and absolute. The only sound was the low pulse of molten aura far below. Pillars of blackened bone jutted from the ground, fused into the stone like monuments to something long dead. Ancient glyphs crawled across the walls, flickering with faint red light. Zara traced one with her gloved fingers. Flame Eater. That's what they called it. Not just a beast, an Eternal's enforcer. It devoured aura until the world itself broke. That's why Ember Deep fell. Kale's eyes narrowed. Is it still down there? No, Zara said. But what it left behind is. The ground trembled, slow, rhythmic. Not an earthquake. Breathing. Chains dragged in the dark. Kale drew his blade. Form up. Enemy detected. Relic Warden, Blaze Husk. The creature emerged from shadow, towering, forged from molten metal and broken armor. Its face was a cracked mask of ember's tone, its arms bound by chains glowing with runes that pulsed like veins. The air shook under its aura, to maybe higher. Go! Kale shouted. Drake charged left, fists igniting in beast flame. Lyra spread her wings of light, shielding the group in radiant gold. Zara vanished into smoke, reappearing behind the creature's flank. Kale dashed forward, Graveblade blazing. Burnout dash. Ash exploded beneath his boots, propelling him into the warden's blind spot. Drake's blow landed first, cracking the creature's chest plate. It staggered but didn't fall. The warden swung. A chained fist smashed through stone inches from Kale's head. He leapt, flipped, and plunged the Graveblade into the crack in its helm. Soul Scorch. A burst of black flame detonated from the impact. The creature convulsed, aura screaming as it burned from within. Then, silence. The blaze husk collapsed. Chains rattled to the floor. Kale stood over it, chest heaving, ash swirling around him like a cloak. The blade hummed, drawing in the dying light. Drake wiped his mouth with a grin. You're getting faster. Kale didn't look back. You're just slowing down. Huh, that's so. Drake smirked. Go on then. Say the line. Kale kept walking. Layer 2, the ember spine. The heat deepened as they descended. Lava veins pulsed through the walls, painting everything in dim red light. The next level isn't physical, Zara whispered. It's a memory seal. The Eternal left behind a trial, for those seeking its power. Kale frowned. A memory trial? Dangerous, Lyra murmured. It can rewrite perception. Then it'll fit right in, Drake muttered, cracking his knuckles. They stepped inside. The world blurred, then shattered. Kale gasped as another's memories flooded through him. Smoke, screams, fire. A city dying under a bleeding sky. At its center stood a girl, no older than 15, wielding a sword far too big for her. She faced a beast of ember and horns. She didn't run. She charged. Instinct moved Kale before reason. He caught the monster's claw and drove the Graveblade forward. And the vision broke. Kale collapsed, gasping for air. Lyra steadied him. Kale, are you? His eyes still glowed faintly. Who was she? Zara hesitated. Valorn's daughter. At the rift's heart, the Emberwell. The final chamber burned in silence. A lake of molten aura stretched below, and at its center rose a shrine, cracked, forgotten. Floating above it pulsed a crystal core, beating like a heart. Kale stepped forward. A voice pressed into his mind. Not sound, not words, just will. Will you bear the sin of flame? It wasn't Valorn. It was her. The crystal shattered. From the fragments rose a new relic. The Ember Sigil, a crest of living fire etched with runes no one remembered. Kale reached out. The moment his fingers brushed it, the world roared. New skill acquired. Ashen Domain, Phase 1. Engulf a mid-range radius in adaptive ash fire. Amplifies strength by 200% for 20 seconds. Enemies inside suffer aura suppression. Ash flared around him, swirling like wings. His form burned in crimson light, aura boiling over. Zera's voice trembled. He's beginning to manifest the domain class. Drake grinned, fire reflecting in his eyes. Finally, let's see what happens when a monster starts acting like a god. The air outside the Emberwell was different. Not lighter, heavier, as if the world itself understood that something had changed. Kale stood at the edge of the rift, ash swirling lazily around his arms. The Ember Sigil burned faintly on his chest, its rhythm matching every breath, every heartbeat. The others said nothing, even Drake. At last, Zera spoke. What you took wasn't just a relic. Kilden looked back. I know. You accepted her will. Her flame. She chose me. Zera's gaze hardened. Or maybe you chose her. Kale's fingers twitched. His aura flickered, steady but alive. Lyra stepped between them, voice calm but firm. We should head back to Solmaris. Vale will want a full report. Her eyes lingered on Kale. And you need time to stabilize. That relic rewired your core. Kale nodded once. Then let's move. Meanwhile, the citadel of the Ember Brood. Far north of Ember Deep, where the old world's bones still smoldered, a tower of black glass and ash clawed into the sky. Within, a man stood before a shattered throne. The air was thick with soot, relics of a forgotten empire scattered across the floor. His armor bore the sigil of a phoenix, falling, not rising. His eyes, silver and sharp, mirrored Kale's. Drake Arclight. He traced a worn, flame-shaped medallion with one hand, closing his fist around it. So, you've awakened it. Behind him, a figure of living shadow knelt. Confirmation just came from a rift. He survived the Emberwell, claimed the sigil. The domain responded to him. Drake didn't move. He's not ready, the shadow said quietly. If he aligns with the Sunspire, he won't. And if he does... Drake turned slightly, his voice low, cold, absolute. Then I'll break him myself. Back in Solmaris, Vanguard Hall. The Sunspire Vanguard's tower gleamed above the marble city, a fortress of light in a world of shadow. Solmaris was untouched, blessed by centuries of divine aura. Here, order still pretended to exist. Vale Solane, commander of the Vanguard, stood on a high balcony overlooking the golden square below. Her armor shimmered like dawn, every plate engraved with runes of radiant force. When Kale entered, the air seemed to tighten. Their eyes met. You're not what I expected, Vale said. Kale shrugged lightly. Neither are you. Drake snorted behind him. Great start. Vale stepped closer, her aura brushing the edge of his. You brought back a domain-class relic from the Emberwell. That makes you valuable. Her tone darkened. But it also makes you dangerous. Kale met her gaze. Everything worth using is dangerous. Zera's lips curved faintly. He's learning. Vale studied him for a moment longer, then handed him a sealed scroll. Your next assignment. Rift Class Dungeon. Apex Chain Level. This time, you go in as one of us. Kale frowned. I'm not a soldier. No, she said. You're worse. You're a weapon. And right now, I need a weapon more than I need rules. That night, Vanguard Barracks. Kale stood on the roof, staring at the stars burning faintly through the haze. The Ember Sigil pulsed on his palm, flickering like a heartbeat. Each time it flared, he saw her again, the girl from the memory trial. Her scream, her charge, her fire. The world didn't need heroes. It needed those willing to burn. Behind him, footsteps. Lyra, you okay? Kale didn't answer right away. The wind carried only the low hum of the city's aura lines. Then, Drake Arclight. Lyra froze. Your brother? He nodded slowly. He's alive. Are you going to face him? Kale looked down at his hand, the ember light dancing across his skin. Then he lifted his gaze to the stars. I don't have a choice. Elsewhere, beneath Noctheron Marsh, far beneath the marshlands of the west, in a ruin swallowed by centuries of rot, something stirred. Chains fell away. Eyes opened, glowing molten black. An eternal, not one of the ancients. A newer spawn, born after the last aura cataclysm. It smiled. He's coming.
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
The rift opened like a screaming wound in the sky. Kale stood at the edge, Vanguard insignia pinned loosely to his coat, the ember's sigil glowing beneath his palm. Beside him, Lyra checked her relic's feathers, her aura resonating like calm waves of sunlight. Drake nor cracked his knuckles, infernal gauntlets already smoldering. Zara was already gone, sent on a separate mission by Vale, though Kale suspected it was something far more dangerous than a scouting task. Before them hovered the entrance to the rift, a churning storm of black stone and violet lightning. This wasn't just any dungeon. This was an apex-tier anomaly, an unstable pocket of corrupted aura, known to eat entire teams alive. And worse, it was marked as unclaimed. Time's ticking, Lyra said, casting a healing ward on Kale's shoulder. You sure you're stable? Kale inhaled slowly. The ember sigil flared. Ah, what a strong aura. Drake let out a low whistle. There it is. Shut up, Kale muttered. Then they stepped in. Inside the rift, hollow citadel. The landscape was twisted. Buildings floated, gravity twisted sideways. Aura storms crackled above like screaming ghosts. Shadows took form, whispering forgotten names. It was not a dungeon. It was a grave. A system message flared across Kale's vision. You have entered Hollow Citadel, Apex Class Rift Dungeon. Aura pressure, 78%. Warning, core level synchronization required. Monsters present. Graveborn Sentinels, Hollow Tyrants, Riftborn Executioner, Dungeon Lord. What's the plan? Lyra asked, eyeing the data feed on her Sunveil feather. Kale drew his blade. We carve a path. Drake cracked his neck. That's the Kale I like. They didn't need more words. The first wave hit like a nightmare. Graveborn Sentinels, half-wraith and half-metal, screaming with aura spikes that burned through shields. Lyra dropped a blinding light dome just in time, searing through the nearest husk, while Drake lunged in with a roar, both fists ablaze. Kale moved like smoke. His blade shimmered, his aura shifting mid-combat, adapting. He weaved between monsters, absorbing the traits of each he struck down. Skill acquired, Grave Pulse, passive, detect aura shifts in dead zones. Duration, 30 minutes. He staggered for a moment, new instincts flooding in, then grinned. Keep feeding me. 30 minutes later, they pushed deeper, fighting through twisted archways and floating debris. The walls themselves pulsed with aura, some trying to infect, others trying to consume. Kale stopped. He could feel something pulling him, like a presence behind the stone. Then the voice came. You were her relic. It echoed from the walls. You carry her flame. Kale spun, blade up. Show yourself. A figure stepped from the wall like it had been born from the stone. A tall, armored hollow tyrant with flickering red aura and no face. Just a mask carved into its helmet, smiling. I killed her, it said. The Emberlight girl. Kale's aura exploded. Flame and ash swirled around him, the ember's sigil crackling. He stepped forward. You shouldn't have said that. Boss encounter. Hollow tyrant, warden of Emberlight. It was fast. Faster than anything yet in the rift. Kale barely parried the first strike, His blade cracked from the force. Lyra launched support seals, her aura pulsing in tight bursts to enhance Kale's balance and reflexes. Drake went for a pincer move, but got hurled back by a psychic scream. The hollow tyrant turned to Kale again. Your flame is fractured. Not hers. Yours. Kale's aura twisted, burning black. Something unlocked. Aura trait evolved. Ashen Shift, Ashen Wrath. Effect. Amplifies aura absorption rate and adaptive mutation speed. Side effect. Aura instability under stress. He didn't care. Kale roared, flames bursting in spiral arcs around him as he vanished from sight, only to appear behind the tyrant mid-slash. New skill activated. Soul Scorch. Effect. Burns enemy aura directly. Ignores external shields. Duration. 7 seconds. The hollow tyrant staggered. Kale didn't stop. Strike after strike. His body was breaking, but his aura was alive. Lyra screamed his name, but he couldn't hear her over the burn. He saw her, the girl in the ember well. The moment she fell. This was her executioner. Kale's aura ignited, and he ended it. With one final slash, the hollow tyrant's mask cracked, its body collapsing in a flare of corrupted aura. Silence. System update. Dungeon Lord proximity confirmed. Warning. Riftborn Executioner detected. Estimated power. S-class. Unique trait. Aura Reaper. Kale dropped to one knee, coughing blood. Lyra knelt beside him. Kale, that trait, it's destabilizing you. I know. You have to rest. No. His eyes glowed. I want more. The ground trembled with every step the Dungeon Lord took. They hadn't even seen it yet, but they felt it. The weight of its presence, like an iron chain wrapping tighter around their lungs. Kale stood slowly, hand gripping his cracked blade. His aura sparked uncontrollably, dancing between flickering flames and choking ash. Drake swore under his breath. Something's wrong. That aura's not normal. It's not just strong, Lyra said, her voice shaking. It's hungry. Then came a message. Boss room unsealed. Riftborn Executioner has become aware of your presence. Stone structures around them disintegrated. The corrupted citadel, already crumbling from the inside, began twisting as if the entire rift was folding inward. Their pathway forward morphed into a spiraling descent, dragging them toward a dome of pulsating light and obsidian pillars. The executioner was waiting. Inside the chamber of chains. The chamber was a cathedral of screams. Chains hung from every inch of the ceiling, each one dripping aura like blood. Cracked masks and bones floated in aura stasis around the massive black throne in the center. Sitting on it, head bowed, was the Riftborn Executioner. 7 feet tall, armor forged from void steel. A helmet shaped like a reaper's skull, glowing with violet veins. In its right hand, a massive guillotine blade, pulsing with captured aura. Its left arm was chained, bound to the throne, but twitching as if trying to reach them. When it stood, the chain snapped, and the system stuttered. Warning, aura registration failed. This entity does not follow rank guidelines. Title, Riftborn Executioner. Trait, Aura Reaper, can consume, corrupt, and override active aura states. Lyra's sun veil feather-dimmed. Drake's gauntlets sparked out. Kale? His ashen wrath flared, but immediately flickered. His body jerked back involuntarily, like something tried to rip the aura from his spine. What the hell? He gritted out, staggering. The executioner finally raised its head. Its eyes were empty, void within void. Then it spoke. You bleed borrowed strength. Let me take it back. Boss battle initiated. Riftborn Executioner. The executioner didn't charge. It appeared. In a blink, its blade was at Kale's neck. He ducked on instinct, but blood still splattered across the floor. The tip had nicked his shoulder, and already he felt it, the aura leeching, his soul draining. Status effect. Aura decay. Duration 20 seconds. HP/aura steadily drops. Kale rolled, pushing back. It's absorbing my damn aura. I can't buff you, Lyra shouted, hurling sigils that dissolved before touching Kale. It's severing your resonance. Drake screamed and lunged, his aura spiking as he went full beast mode. Skill, Infernal Rampage, temporarily sacrifices defense for raw power. He collided with the Executioner, fist meeting steel. For a moment, the room lit up in fire and fury. Then Drake was flung like a ragdoll, crashing into a stone pillar. Kale caught him mid-bounce, knees buckling from the force. "You good?" Drake coughed up blood. "That thing just laughed at me." Kale placed him down gently, then stood. His eyes locked on the Executioner. It wasn't invincible, but it was something else. No aura technique worked. No relic responded, which meant I have to beat it without them. Lyra's eyes widened. "Kale, your aura's unstable. You can't." "I'm not asking it to behave," Kale muttered. He stepped forward, slowly peeling off his coat, letting it fall. The ember sigil on his chest burned brighter, forcing the Executioner to pause. Kale clenched his blade. The old one. Cracked, worn, but still his. His aura surged again. No enhancements. No relics. No fusion. Just will, and a will to kill. Kale Arclight, combat state. Zero synchronization. All buffs disabled. Skill enhancements locked. Raw stats only. Ashen Wrath remains active due to willpower override. Aura trait amplified. Adaptive feedback. Learns enemy attack patterns at increased rate. Kale exhaled once, then charged. The Executioner moved faster, but Kale moved smarter. His body twisted mid-slide, narrowly avoiding the guillotine slash. A flick of his wrist redirected the blade's weight, letting momentum pull it just enough for him to stab upward. Clang! No penetration, but the echo reverberated through the room. He was learning it. Every time he survived, his aura adjusted. Every cut dodged, refined his movements. Every near-death gave him more data. The Executioner roared, swinging in wide arcs. Aura screams lashed at the walls, but Kale began dancing between them. His muscles screamed. Blood ran down his temple, but his blade never dropped. Then, aura sank 2%, 4%, 7%. Kale gritted his teeth. "I don't need power. 10%. I just need 15% to understand you." The Executioner swung again, but this time Kale didn't dodge. He stepped into it. He timed the arc, parried at the elbow, and drove his blade through the gap in its armor. A shock wave exploded outward. For the first time, the Executioner staggered backward. Kale gasped. Critical hit. Armor penetration successful. Ashen Wrath mutation triggered. New skill acquired. Echo Rend. Echo Rend active. Instantly replicates the last attack absorbed from an enemy using corrupted aura. Kale raised his hand. The guillotine slash he'd just endured, he copied it. An aura mirage formed behind him. With a roar, he unleashed it, a black and crimson wave of corrupted power that ripped through the Executioner's chest. It screamed. No, it wept, its voice no longer monstrous. For a moment, Kale heard something human. Then its body disintegrated into ashes. And all was silent. Dungeon cleared. Boss defeated. Rift-born Executioner. Aura gained. Plus 12,400 Ashen Absorption bonus applied. Ashen Wrath. Progression unlocked. 34%. New passive. Aura Reaper fragmented. Chance to steal one skill from defeated S-rank enemies. Kale fell to one knee. Lyra ran to him. "You did it, Kale, you did it." Drake limped over, one eye swollen shut. "Holy hell, that was insane." Kale just smiled. His blade now glowed faintly with that same violet light. One step closer, one enemy down, and the Eternals still waited. The wind in Noctheron Marsh didn't whistle. It howled. Even as they stepped out from the collapsing dungeon, the air still carried the scent of decay and raw aura. The sky above was blackened, not by clouds, but by fractured mana that lingered from the Executioner's fall. Kale Arclight stood at the edge of a shallow ravine, his hands still trembling. He wasn't sure if it was from exhaustion, or the voice he heard just before the Executioner crumbled. A whisper, faint, human, and terrified. Lyra checked the surroundings, but her eyes kept flicking toward him. "You're still shaking. What happened in there?" Kale didn't answer immediately. He couldn't. Instead, he reached inside himself, not for aura, but for the memory. That moment, the echo wren struck, the scream rose, and something inside him broke, or awoke. Passive triggered, echo drift, recovered fragmented memory of defeated aura entity. Kale staggered as his vision blurred. In its place came a memory, but it wasn't his. Flashback, unknown timeline. A man knelt, chained beneath a violet moon. Skin scorched, eyes burned blind, yet he still smiled. You think I'll regret it, the man rasped. Even if I die, I burned their gods. I made them bleed. That was enough. The voice that answered him was not of this world, nor this realm. You were human, Arcton. You should never have touched the rift. The chained man, the original executioner, spat blood. Then why do your kind keep sending monsters afraid of what humans can become? Kale gasped, stumbling backward. Drake caught him before he hit the dirt. Oi, Kale, you spacing out again? Don't tell me you're talking to ghosts. Kale's eyes focused, slowly. No, I think. He looked down at his hands. They were still his, still human. But that memory? That was someone else. And yet it came through him. Executioner wasn't just a monster, he murmured. It was a person once. A warrior. Lyra's eyes widened. Wait, what? Kale stood, wiping blood from his mouth. He rebelled. Against the Eternals. They turned him into that thing to punish him. Drake let out a low whistle. Damn. No wonder he hit like a grudge. Kale turned toward the marsh horizon. The world was starting to change again. Not from the dungeon's collapse. From within. Back in Sunspire. Classified report. Riftborn collapse. Level S. Danger suppressed. Team. Independent. Survivors. 3. Name identified. Kale Arclight. Unknown class type. Cleared dungeon solo kill on S-rank boss. Status. Under investigation. Council members murmured inside the High Court. Golden-robed wardens whispered to one another, while Vale Solane, the current vanguard leader of Sunspire, reviewed the recorded fragments with narrowed eyes. He copied the executioner's technique. One of them whispered, "That's forbidden mimicry. Aura replication should be impossible." Vale tapped her fingers on the marble desk. And yet he did it. She leaned back. Contact Zara Valeth. If Kale's truly tapping into pre-eternal knowledge, we need to know how much he remembers. Meanwhile, in the shadows of Lyriel's divide, Zara stood atop a ruined spire, eyes closed. A wraith bell in her hand chimed. Only once. She smiled to herself. So, you heard it, Kale, she whispered. The ash doesn't lie, and the past always echoes. A cloaked figure behind her spoke. He's not ready. He doesn't have to be, Zara said. He just has to survive. Nightfall, their campfire in the marsh outskirts. Crickets chirped. Frogs croaked. It should have felt peaceful. But Kale's thoughts didn't rest. Not with what he saw. What he felt. What whispers still lingered behind his ears. You good? Drake tossed him a roasted fin lizard on a stick. Kale caught it, blinked, then let out a small chuckle. You're the worst cook I've ever met. Wrong, Drake said proudly. I'm the second worst. The guy who taught me exploded his food. Lyra sighed. You two are impossible. Kale bit into the lizard anyway. Even burned, it grounded him. But not enough. Lyra scooted closer, voice gentler. You don't have to carry everything alone, Kale. I'm not, he replied, barely a whisper. But something's changing in me. Every time I fight, I'm less myself. Or maybe I'm becoming something I always was. He looked at them both. I just don't want to lose my grip on what matters. Drake tossed a small rock into the fire. Then let us be what matters. Lyra smiled. Exactly. Elsewhere, a new threat stirs. Deep in the Alarith Peaks, a colossal gate of blackstone creaked open. A figure cloaked in starless smoke stepped through. Eternal Spawn, Sable Priest of the Void Choir, rank SSS, awakened. It opened its maw, not a mouth, but a chasm of silence. The Ashen has heard the forgotten, and the world began to shiver. The morning air hung heavy with dew and tension. Mist clung to the lowlands, muffling sound, warping shape, just like the thoughts clouding Kale's mind. They were 2 days out for Noctheron now. 2 days since he felled the executioner. 2 days since he heard the voice. And yet, the feeling didn't fade. If anything, it pulsed stronger. Kale stood at the edge of their camp, eyes fixed toward the far mountains of Alarith Peaks. The winds were colder there. Not natural winds, but ether-born, strands of aura too raw, too thick to belong in the mortal world. Drake clanked up beside him, gauntlets slung over his shoulder like a favorite toy. "You seeing ghost again, Ash boy?" Kale didn't respond immediately. "I think something's waking up there," Kale muttered. Lyra emerged from their makeshift shelter, her white cloak faintly glowing in the morning light. Sable aura has been recorded in only a handful of reports. All of them end in silence. Drake smirked. "Cute. Silence means less noise before the fun starts." Kale didn't flinch. "No, this is different. That thing in Noctheron, it was bound. This one's moving." He clenched a fist, and his aura flared, ever so subtly. Ash spiraled out, smoldering on the wind like the first breath before fire. "It's calling." Lyra paled. "To you," Kale looked over his shoulder, "or to whatever's buried in me." Sunspire, inner sanctum. Vale Solane stood before the council archive, watching as an ancient crystal rotated in the air. Dozens of shimmering scripts orbited it, each a record of aura phenomena long forbidden. She reached forward, tapping a red-threaded glyph. A projection bloomed. Kale Arclight, recorded mid-fight, cloaked in shifting ash. It wasn't just strength. It was inheritance. One of the elders behind her, a man with a crown of flame-shaped runes, stepped forward. The boy's mutation is beyond natural evolution. A hybrid of Blade Soul and Revenant, yes, but more than that, he's synchronizing. With what? Vale asked, turning sharply. The elder hesitated. Echoes. Memories imprinted on aura. Long before the first guilds. Before even the Eternals. He may be touching something older. Vale stared at Kale's projection. "If that's true," she said coldly, "then we either guide him or silence him." Hidden camp, later that day, Kale practiced alone. Not because he wanted to, but because something inside him demanded it. Each swing of his blade left trails of ember in the air, but the ash clinging to his arms didn't burn, it echoed. There were forms his body remembered before his mind could catch up. Movements that felt too fluid, too honed. He wasn't learning them. He was remembering. Drake watched from a distance, arms folded. He's not just training anymore. He's tuning. Lyra looked on, worried. "You mean like aura resonance?" Drake shook his head. "No, that's too clean. This feels more like a burnout. Something pushing him from the inside." Kale suddenly stopped. He stood still, blade pointed downward, breathing slow. Then he whispered something, not a chant, not a technique name, just a truth. "Oh, what a strong aura." Lyra's breath caught. Even Drake went silent. Because the moment Kale said it, the trees around them bent slightly. Not from pressure, but from recognition. The world heard him, and it answered. Notification, aura, instinct triggered. Skill gained. Ember Veil cloaks the user in adaptive ash, granting brief invulnerability and counter-based retaliation. Duration, 5 seconds. Cooldown, 3 minutes. Fusion trait, Executioner's Grudge, increases damage to eternal spawned enemies by 15%. The ash spiraled around Kale before collapsing into his skin. He looked at his hands again. "This is only the start, isn't it?" A figure stepped into the clearing then. Zera, calm, cloaked in black mist, eyes like untouched snow. "You shouldn't be able to access that memory," she said flatly. Kale raised a brow. "And yet I did." Zera gave the faintest hint of a smile. "Then the world's tipping faster than I thought." Lyra stiffened. "You followed us?" Zera ignored her, eyes still on Kale. "There's a ruin hidden beneath the Alarith Peaks. A vault from the Age of Break. Inside is a key, something that only echoes can awaken." Kale met her gaze. "And you want me to open it?" Zera's voice lowered. "No, I want you to survive what's inside." She stepped forward, placing a hand on his chest, over his heart. "You're not a chosen one, Kale. You're a remnant, and the past doesn't sleep." She vanished with a gust of cursed mist, the wraith bell chiming faintly behind her. Unknown location, rift beyond light. The sable priest stood at the edge of a dying star. Dozens of eternal spawn beasts knelt before him, their bodies stitched from bone, metal, and aura. One of them screeched. The ashen moves. The flame stirs. The priest raised a hand, and silence fell. He awakens what we buried. He turned his head toward the real world. Then we shall bury him again. They crossed into Alarith by nightfall, snow whispering underfoot as the mountain pass narrowed. The air shimmered with quiet tension, thinner, colder, and steeped in aura. Every breath tasted like iron. Kale moved at the front, cloak fluttering behind him. The ember veil responded to the mountain's pulse, subtly coating his body in flickers of ash that drifted upward rather than fall. Drake and Lyra flanked him, silent but alert. No one cracked a joke. No one broke the silence. The map Zara left behind was nothing more than 3 cryptic symbols etched onto a shard of obsidian. Coordinates only someone with memory-born aura could read. Kale held it now, and the shard pulsed in his hand, drawing him to the exact ridge. They stopped before a cliff wall. To the untrained eye, it was just jagged rock. But Kale raised his hand, and ash slithered from his skin into the stone. Lines of ember bloomed across the cliff, carving a perfect circle. A door of aura. Without a word, Kale placed his palm in the center. A sound followed, deep and hollow, like a locked coffin unsealing after centuries. Then the mountain opened. System alert. Aura vault detected. Location: Vault of the Echoes, Forbidden Tier. Recommended rank: SSS or above. Warning: incomplete tuning may result in permanent soul fragmentation. Proceed? Kale stared at the message. It knows me. Drake chuckled lowly. Of course it does. This thing probably remembers you. Lyra's voice trembled. There's no going back after this. Kale stepped forward. I never planned to. The vault was unlike any dungeon they'd seen. No monsters greeted them. No traps sprung. Instead, the path sloped downward into a massive chamber of obsidian pillars. Murals lined the walls. Ancient scenes of war between beings of impossible scale. One figure stood prominent across all of them. A warrior cloaked in ash, wielding blades that bled starlight. Kale's heartbeat quickened. He knew this place. He had bled in this place. They reached the center chamber. At its heart was a pedestal. Floating above it, a fragment of something metallic, humming with dormant aura. Kale stepped close. It wasn't a weapon. It was a memory. His hand hovered over it, and the room screamed. Ash erupted from the walls. Echoes, phantoms, memories not yet faded surged like a flood of ghosts. One figure stepped from them, a mirror of Kale, older, darker, eyes hollowed by war. The memory spoke. You are not ready. Kale didn't flinch. Then why show yourself? The memory lunged. Boss encounter. Ashborn Echo, the other Kale. Aura type, Ashen Prime. Rank, SSS plus, memory projection. Skill, soul severance. Cuts the bond between body and aura, nullifying abilities for 3 seconds. Kale blocked the first strike, but his arm screamed under the weight. This echo moved like instinct and struck like memory. It knew every move he might try. You are a shadow, it snarled. A flicker of what was. You don't deserve the title. Kale's eyes narrowed. You're wrong. He ducked the next strike, ember igniting his wake. His foot slammed into the echo's chest, driving it back, but the echo smiled. Kale gritted his teeth. You were the one who gave up. I'm not you. The echo's face twitched. Then, another voice echoed behind him. I believe him. Drake charged in, aura flaring like wildfire. Time to see which Kale hits harder. Lyra followed, wings of golden light spreading as she unleashed a healing burst that shattered one of the ash phantoms in the room. Together they fought. Kale's ember veil clashed with the echo's corrupted flame. Ash met ash. And finally, oh, what a strong aura. Kale roared and drove his blade through the echo's heart. It didn't scream. It smiled and disintegrated into ash. System alert. Echo defeated. You have claimed a lost memory. Skill gained. Soul Scorch. Channel latent aura memories to amplify attacks. Damage scales with emotional resonance. 45-second cooldown. Unlocking fragment. Ashen core, tear, mythic. The chamber pulsed. The fragment above the pedestal descended, embedding itself into Kale's chest. It didn't burn. It fit. Kale gasped, falling to one knee, as floods of voices surged into his mind. Warriors, fallen gods, the first revenants, all memories, all his. Drake caught his shoulder. You still with us, Ash boy? Kale looked up, eyes smoldering like dying stars. I remember now what they made us forget. Lyra stood by tense. What did you see? Kale slowly rose. They weren't trying to create weapons. They were trying to erase them. Unknown realm, sable deep. The priest opened his eyes. The ashen has touched the core. A low hiss echoed in the shadows. Then we must move. A clawed hand opened a gate of abyssal flame. Summon the Veilborn. No more testing. The moment they left the vault of the echoes, the skies above Alarith were no longer still. The stars flickered, not like lights, but like eyes. Kale stood on the cliff's edge, the cold mountain wind rushing past him as his aura pulsed erratically. The ashen core embedded in his chest still glowed faintly, its embers dancing along his skin like living tattoos. His breathing was steady, but his gaze was distant, locked on a vision only he could see. Kale. Lyra stepped beside him. What exactly did you see back there? Kale didn't answer immediately. Drake was lounging on a broken pillar nearby, sharpening one of his infernal gauntlets with a cracked grin. The silence was thick, weighty, like the calm before a blood-soaked storm. I saw them, Kale finally said. The ones who came before us. The true revenants. The Ashen weren't weapons. They were guardians of something older than the Eternals themselves. Drake scoffed. Guardians? Then where the hell are they now? Kale closed his eyes. They were devoured. Far beneath the world, in the sable deep, something stirred. The Veilborn. Creatures that existed between life and aura, shaped from ancient hatred and eternal silence. Neither alive nor dead, but something far more dangerous, remembered. The priest knelt before the central chamber of the deep, where a throne of bones and blackened soul stone sat vacant. A voice echoed from the abyss. Send the first. A test. A warning. The priest's eyes bled ink as he raised his staff. Across Arena, every dungeon trembled. The Veilborn were returning. Back in Alarith, a new aura ripple shook the ground. Kale instinctively turned, drawing his blade, only to see a glowing glyph shimmer in the sky above. A symbol none of them had ever seen before. Spinning. Ancient. Watching. Then came the pulse. A wave of aura energy surged through the land like a heartbeat. Trees cracked. Snow vaporized. Kale dropped to one knee, clutching his chest. The ashen core inside him screamed in resonance. What the hell is this? Drake shouted, shielding his face. Lyra's wings flared, struggling to stabilize her aura as golden light shimmered from her palms. It's not a dungeon. It's something else. Kale gritted his teeth. No, it's a beacon. Someone's calling something here. A rift tore open above the mountain. The world split sideways, and from the void stepped a creature that shouldn't exist. It had no face, only drifting tendrils of aura, like smoke given thought. Its body shifted between skeletal and divine, adorned in fragments of forgotten armor. Where it stepped, the ground unmade itself. Veilborn, cowereth the hollow memory. Rank? Aura undefined. Origin, sable deep. Aura traits. Memory corrosion, time bleed, echo drain. Do not speak to it, Kale warned, rising. It speaks in echoes. If you answer, it learns you. Drake's hands burned to life. Too late. I already want to punch it. The Veilborn tilted its head, aura twitching like a broken clock. Then, it screamed, but not in sound, in thought. Visions flooded the mountain. Wars, endings, forgotten tombs. The air thickened. Lyra fell to her knees, nose bleeding. Drake staggered, coughing smoke. Only Kale remained standing. His eyes narrowed. I've seen this before. He stepped forward. The air bent around him. Ember flared. His aura surged outward in a dome of ashen flame, pushing the Veilborn's pressure back. The creature paused, as if sensing something familiar. Kale's voice dropped. Oh, what a strong aura. The mountain exploded. Kale launched forward, blade catching fire mid-strike. Cowrith phased, then reformed behind him, claws slicing toward his spine. Kale vanished, burnout dash. He reappeared in midair, twisting to deliver a downward slash that erupted in a soul scorch, the first use of his newly gained ability. The blade connected, and for the first time, the Veilborn reacted. It bled memory. Images spilled from its wound. Kale, alone, burning cities. Lyra, lying dead in a field of ash. Drake impaled on his own gauntlet. The creature fed them false futures. Kale gritted his teeth. Not real. Not real. Not real. The Veilborn moved again, this time slower, flickering, destabilizing. Drake yelled, "Now or never, Ash Boy." Kale nodded. The Ember Veil surged to life. He raised his sword, then lowered it as the blade split into two. A new ability. Aura Sync. Revenant Twin Blade, Ashfall mode unlocked. He charged, both blades howling with soul heat, and crossed them through the Veilborn's core. There was no explosion, only silence. Then, collapse. The Veilborn shrieked and folded in on itself, consumed by Kale's ashen aura. Its body crumbled into glyphs, forgotten language, and then dust. The rift sealed. Kale fell to one knee, gasping. Lyra rushed to his side, pressing a glowing hand to his back. That thing wasn't like anything we've seen before. Drake spat blood. If that was the first one, I'd hate to see the second. Kale stood, looking up at the sky. The stars blinked again, 3 times. Like a countdown. We'll see them again. He looked at his hand, ash curling from his palm. And next time, they'll know my name. Unknown location, Deep Watch Citadel. Zara watched from a high tower, eyes unreadable. So it begins, she thought. The Veilborn had returned, and Kale Arclight was no longer just a variable. He was a threat. She sipped her tea, lips curving slightly. Let them come. Kale couldn't sleep. Even after the Veilborn had fallen, even after the sky had stilled and Lyra's healing aura soothed his wounds, the visions wouldn't leave. They played behind his eyes like cursed reels, over and over. Drake screaming as he burned alive, Lyra's light flickering out, the world in ruins. He sat alone near the cliff's edge, blade stuck in the earth beside him, ash dancing on the breeze like dying fireflies. Those weren't just illusions, he muttered, fingers twitching slightly. They were echoes. Possible futures fragments the Veilborn tried to force-feed me. He clenched his fist. They were too real. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. You haven't slept since the battle, Lyra said gently, wrapping a light shawl tighter around herself. You're going to burn out. Kale didn't look back. I don't sleep well when I see my allies die in every possible outcome. She sat beside him, hugging her knees. I know, she whispered, but you're not the only one carrying the weight. Silence fell between them, but it wasn't empty. It was shared, a quiet moment in the aftermath of chaos. Then Kale broke it. Why do you stay? Lyra blinked. What? I'm a ticking time bomb with a cursed aura. I'm hunted by Eternals. The Veilborn want to rip open my brain and wear it like a crown, and I'm probably going to die before I turn 20. He turned, finally facing her. So why are you still here? She stared at him, hurt, confused, then angry. Because you saved me. Because you believed in me when I was nothing but a weak healer barely clinging to her rank. Because despite all your talk about death and darkness, you still stood in front of that monster while bleeding from your ribs. She stood now, hands balled into fists. Because you care, Kale Arclight. Even if you don't admit it. He opened his mouth to argue. She turned away. And maybe I'm staying because if you fall, someone has to be there to remind you who the hell you are. Kale sat in stunned silence as she walked away, the glow of her sun veil, feathers shimmering faintly behind her. Damn, he muttered, scratching his head. Why does she always win those arguments? Elsewhere, Noctheron Marsh, outer ruins. Drake dragged a fresh monster corpse out of the black water, panting. Wraithfang Basilisk. Rank B+. That's number 6. He threw on the pile and sat down, pulling out a ration bar and biting into it like it owed him money. From behind the mist, Zara stepped forward, quiet as a ghost. "You're pushing yourself." Drake smirked. "Didn't realize you cared." "I don't, but you'll be needed soon. And you're getting sloppy." He growled. "You spying on us now?" "No," she said simply. "I'm watching the warboard. The Veilborn aren't attacking dungeons. They're corrupting them. Tiers are collapsing. Apex monsters are going mad. Even dungeon lords are abandoning their nests." Drake's grin faded. "That's bad, right?" Zara's wraith bell chimed once, soft but hollow. "Yes, it means the Eternals are reacting. And worse." She looked toward the marsh's center, where the fog swirled unnaturally. "They're afraid." Sunspire Citadel, Vanguard briefing room. Vale Solane stood before the gathered captains. The entire war table lit up with aura projections. 3 dungeons collapsed in one day. Not cleared, not sealed. Collapsed. Gone. Vanished into ash. The captains whispered among themselves. "One Veilborn did this," she continued. "And it was defeated. By a blade soul." Someone scoffed. "A half-class. That shouldn't be possible." Vale's eyes narrowed. "Then explain it." "Because the reports are clear. Kale Arclight faced the entity alone and lived." The room fell silent. "From this point forward," she said, turning to the projection of Kale's face, "he's no longer a rogue variable. He's a high-value asset." She touched her badge, activating a secure signal. "Contact every Vanguard in the region. New priority, find Kale Arclight." Later that night, Alarith Peaks. Kale finally found rest. Not sleep, but rest. The kind that let your bones stop buzzing for a minute. He dreamed. In his dream, he stood before a mirror. But his reflection was not himself. It was someone older, wiser, scorched from 1,000 wars. The figure spoke without moving its lips. "You are not the first Ashen." Kale stepped closer. "Then who was?" The figure flickered, now wearing a crown of molten stone. "You're not meant to survive. You're meant to burn." Kale gritted his teeth. "I don't accept that." The reflection leaned forward. "You don't have to." And then, the mirror shattered. Kale jolted awake, hand on his blade. Drake was at the edge of camp, watching the dark horizon. Lyra was asleep, curled beside the campfire. Kale stood, dusted himself off, and stared at the sky again. The stars had stopped blinking. But now one was missing. A sign. Something was coming. Something worse. And this time, it wasn't coming for the world. It was coming for him. Morning in Alarith Peaks wasn't quiet. The wind carried echoes, howls from distant beasts, the dull tremor of shifting stone, and sometimes whispers. Kale wasn't sure if those were real or just remnants from the Veilborn's assault still lingering in his mind. He sat cross-legged, aura pulsing steadily around him as he meditated atop a jagged outcrop overlooking the valley. Every breath he took filtered ash and clarity, his ashen aura adapting, mutating, refining itself with each passing hour. Since the battle, it hadn't gone dormant. It was awake. "You ever sleep?" Drake asked, casually juggling a fruit between flaming fingers. Kale didn't open his eyes. "You ever shut up in the morning?" "Touché." Drake sat beside him, unusually quiet for a moment. "I saw what you did to the Veilborn. That thing was pure nightmare fuel. I barely won. You still won." Kale opened his eyes now, the golden flicker in his irises subdued but deep. "It wasn't just the fight. That thing, it showed me a version of the future where everything burns." Drake leaned forward, elbows on knees. "Did I die cool?" "You died screaming." "Damn. Well, at least I went out loud." Kale couldn't help the brief smirk that flickered across his face. But the moment shattered when Lyra came sprinting up the slope, hair loose, eyes wide with alarm. "Kale, incoming airship. Sunspire colors." Drake stood immediately. "They found us." "No, they're landing. 10 clicks out. They've got a sigil up. Synflar Vanguard's elite." Kale's expression darkened. Vale Solane. 10 minutes later, ridge overlook. Kale, Lyra, and Drake crouched behind a ridge, observing the clearing below. A sleek, silver Sunspire warship hovered just above the rock bed, its engines barely humming. From it descended soldiers in golden armor, etched with solar sigils. Sunflower Vanguard, elite of the elite. And at the helm, as expected, a tall woman with sharp silver hair, eyes like razors, and a voice that seemed to part the clouds. Vale Solane. She doesn't move unless it's high priority, Lyra whispered. We're not just a report to her. We're a mission. Kale's jaw tensed. A soldier below spoke up. Commander Vale. No signs of movement. Should we initiate scan protocols? No, Vale replied. He's here. I can feel it. She turned toward the ridge and said, clearly, Kale Arclight, you've drawn the attention of more than just monsters. I'm not here to capture you. I'm here to offer you something the world no longer can. Kale's brows furrowed. Drake grinned. Well, I was hoping to punch someone this morning. But Lyra grabbed Kale's wrist gently. Wait, hear her out. You'll know if she's lying. Kale stepped over the ridge. Slowly, calmly. Vale's soldiers raised their weapons. She raised a hand to lower them. They stared at each other. Two warriors on opposite sides of a very thin line. You said you're not here to capture me, Kale said. I meant it, Vale answered. Your battle with the Valeborn was recorded. The ash echoes are still scattered across the peaks. You stood alone, and you lived. That makes you valuable. Kale's voice dropped. I'm not a tool. Then be a weapon that silenced the mountains themselves. Vale stepped forward. The Eternals are stirring. We've confirmed 3 corruption wells. Dungeon lords are defecting. The Vanguard can't contain this alone. So what? Kale asked. You want me to play soldier for you now? I want you to survive. And for that, you'll need power, resources, access to relics that aren't in the public registry. She pulled out a sealed scroll, marked with the crimson sigil of the Vanguard's inner sanctum. A relic forgotten since the first fracture, she said. One that resonates with adaptive aura types. I'll give it to you on one condition. Kale crossed his arms. You take the field against the Eternal known as Arax, the Womb of Shadows. Even Drake flinched. That thing still exists. Kale said nothing for a moment. Then he stepped forward and took the scroll. Later, that night, Kale sat beside the fire again, the sealed scroll resting in his lap. He hadn't opened it yet. His aura trembled just being near it. Something old, heavy, hungry. You sure about this? Lyra asked. No, he said, but we don't have time to be sure anymore. Drake laughed. That's the spirit. He looked up at the stars, still one missing. A sign, not just a danger. Of war. Kale clenched his fist. His aura flickered gray and red. Oh, what a strong aura. The scroll veil gave him pulsed with something deeper than magic. It wasn't just aura, it was history. Buried echoes and chains of intent. Kale sat with it unopened, his fingers brushing the seal made of melted mithril and ashroot ink. The moment he broke it, he knew things would never return to how they were. Lyra and Drake were silent nearby. For once, Drake wasn't cracking jokes or making loud observations. And Lyra, her gaze flickered between the scroll and Kale, anxiety shimmering like sunlight on glass. He drew in a breath and broke the seal. The parchment within unraveled itself midair, spinning slowly before it burst into ethereal flames, leaving only a single object hovering where it had been. A blade, but not a weapon of war. It was slender, blackened, and curved like a fong made from fossilized shadow. Red aura veins pulsed inside it, like the relic itself had a heartbeat. Relic acquired. Fong Soul Edge. Adaptive class. Resonates with aura types. Ashen, Beast Flame, Abyssal. Passive. Gains properties of slain foes. Active, Echo Rend. Summons phantoms of defeated enemies to strike in tandem. Sync potential. High. Kale reached forward and took it. The moment he gripped the hilt, it wasn't pain that coursed through him, it was memory. The death cries of monsters. The last thoughts of warriors. His own fear, rage, and that quiet voice inside him that refused to die. Kale. Lyra lunged forward as his aura surged violently. But it wasn't out of control, it was sinking, absorbing the relic, not resisting it. And when it settled, Kale stood taller. His breath misted in the air, even without cold. He slid the blade across his palm. It didn't cut, it listened. I can use this, he murmured. Drake grinned. Remind me never to bet against you again. Like you win anyway, Kale said. Lyra stepped in. That relic, it wasn't just made. It was forged during the First War with the Eternals. Who did it belong to? Vale had only left a single note inside the scroll before it burned. Wielded by the Revenant who defied fate. May his edge sharpen yours. Kale's thoughts spun, but before he could respond, a sudden tremor shook the mountainside. Not an earthquake, a pulse. A scar opened in the air itself, not far from their camp. A rift, deep, dark, and singing with corrupted aura. And from it spilled a creature, 10 feet tall, cloaked in stitched hides of its victims, its body a mess of jagged teeth, no eyes, only tongues that whispered across dimensions. A dungeon beast. Ouroboros, Lyra breathed. That's an Apex class. That's not supposed to be here. Kale didn't speak. He stepped forward. The Fong Soul edge shimmered in his hand. The creature lunged, and Kale vanished. Not literally, but his aura blurred. A trick of the Ashen. The moment before he struck was always a question. He appeared above the creature mid-leap, blade glowing red. Echo rend. Behind him, silhouettes of the Veilborn's dying echo formed. For a heartbeat, it looked like a nightmare had joined his side. The slash came down, and the Ouroboros didn't roar. It howled, its body split into 4 as Kale landed in a crouch, smoke rising from his shoulders. Did that thing just... Drake whispered. Get erased. Lyra finished. Kale stood slowly. The Fong Soul edge hummed. It had tasted the creature's aura and stored it. This was no normal weapon. This was a key. He turned to them. That rift isn't natural. Someone, or something, forced it open. Lyra pointed. Look, more cracks in the sky. Small ones, barely visible, like glass waiting to shatter. Rift fall, Kale murmured. A what now? Drake said. When aura becomes unstable in high-density zones, reality thins. It only happens near eternal-affected regions. Drake cracked his knuckles. Then we close them, one by one. But Kale shook his head. We don't close them. He looked at the largest rift in the center. We go through. Meanwhile, deep within Noctheron Marsh, a woman clad in moon-colored robes stood before a dying, eternal spawn. Her aura whispered of still water and venom. Fong Soul Edge has awakened, she said softly. That boy walks too far for someone who was meant to die in the first breach. A voice slithered from shadows. You fear him? Not yet, she replied. But soon the gods might. The air around the rift was different. It wasn't just colder. It shrank the world, folding light and sound into something distant and wrong. The sky crackled with thin threads of red lightning, each one tracing the edges of the tear like veins around a wound that refused to heal. Kale stood at the edge, the Fong Soul edge humming low in his hand. The rift pulsed as if it recognized him, welcomed him. This isn't just a dungeon rupture, Lyra said behind him, her voice trembling despite her will. This is a forced tear. Someone wanted this open. Then we give them what they want, Kale said, stepping forward. Drake cocked an eyebrow. Just like that. No prep talk. No strategy. We adapt inside, Kale said. Like always. And then he stepped through. The sensation was immediate, like walking through fire and ice at the same time. A million needles of aura pierced his skin, tugged at his soul. Then the world flipped, spun, and reformed. He landed on solid stone, no bone. The floor of the rift zone was made from calcified remains. Towers of spines rose around him, twisting into trees of marrow. The sky was a void above, and something vast moved through it, just beyond perception. Lyra stumbled in next, catching herself with a burst of golden aura. Drake followed with a roar, cracking the floor with his landing. Next time, Drake growled, "Give me a second to brace." Kale ignored them, his senses reaching outward. There were monsters here, strong ones. He could feel their aura signatures, distant but hungry. Then he noticed something else. Look, Kale said, pointing ahead. A gate, massive, obsidian, and inscribed with runes none of them could read. It wasn't sealed. It was ajar. Someone had been here before them. Kale narrowed his eyes. Someone opened this from the inside. Elsewhere, above the rift zone, a figure in crimson robes stood on a skeletal outcropping, watching the trio move. The ashen one is crossed. Beside him, a hooded woman chanted softly, eyes glowing violet. The Fong Soul edge resonates, just as the eye foretold. Then let them descend deeper. Let the truth find them. Back in the rift, as the trio passed through the gate, a sudden pressure dropped on them like a storm. The air thickened, their bones vibrated. Something ancient was buried here. The room opened into a black temple, pillars made of fused armor and weapons, shattered relics embedded in walls like forgotten prayers. In the center lay a sealed coffin. Kale stopped. His aura flared instinctively. "It's alive," he whispered. Lyra stepped back. "What is?" The coffin cracked, and then it spoke. "Who dares walk the path of the revenants?" Kale didn't flinch. "I'm Kale Arclight, and I've come to take back what your kind stole." A groan of shifting stone. A hand emerged from the coffin, skeletal, wrapped in aura chains. Then another. The figure pulled itself up. Eyes like twin pits of night locked onto Kale. "You bear his blade," the entity rasped. "The first traitor, the one who defied the Eternals." Kale raised Fong Soul Edge. "Good. Then you know how this ends." The creature lunged. "Boss, Echo Revenant, WIRN the Bound. SSS Class Wraithblade. Abilities, Chain Rend, shatters aura armor with spectral blades. Requiem Field, creates a zone where defeated foes scream back to life as hostile phantoms. Memory Lock, forces opponent to relive their most painful moment." Kale ducked beneath the first slash, ash flaring from his shoulders. Drake slammed into the Revenant from the side, fire erupting from his fists. "I like this one already." Lyra focused, golden seals blooming beneath their feet, shielding them from phantom strikes. But the Revenant didn't weaken. It fed on memories. Each clash made Kale slower, more unsure. He saw visions. His brother burning. His mother's last words. That first dungeon, all blood and ash. It threatened to consume him. But Kale grit his teeth, digging the Fong Soul Edge into the creature's chest. "You want memories?" he hissed. "Take this." He activated Echo Rend. The screams of the dead surged around them, but now they answered to Kale. The Veilborn, the Aura Borer, even the Whispered Hound from Dungeon Arc 1. Their echoes struck in unison. The Revenant screamed, not in anger, but in release. Its body cracked, light bleeding from inside. "Revenants, do not bow," it whispered. Kale stepped close, then fall. With one final strike, Kale shattered the creature's chest, and its aura imploded inward. The coffin collapsed. Only a faint, pulsing crystal remained. Aura Core, WIRN the Bound obtained. Fusion ready. Memory imprint unlocked. Trait, Phantom Step, phase forward mid-combat. Warning, Core is unstable. Sync may trigger evolution. Kale picked it up, chest heaving. Drake clapped him on the back. "You just punked an SSS Revenant. I'm proud." Lyra knelt near the remains. "This place is older than any dungeon we've seen. We shouldn't stay." Kale nodded. But even as they turned to leave, Kale paused, because from deeper in the temple, a new voice called. This one was familiar. "Kale." A figure stepped into the light. Hair like his, eyes like ash. His brother. "Drake," Kale whispered. But it wasn't just a reunion. Because Drake Arclight wasn't alone. And the symbol on his chest, the Ember Brood, glowed like fire reborn. Kale's heartbeat pounded louder than the crumbling echo of the Revenant's lair. His eyes locked onto the figure standing beyond the fractured pillars. Clad in obsidian-scale armor scorched with ember-like cracks, the man was unmistakable. Same ash-gray hair, same sharp jawline, but older, harder. His presence burned, not just in aura, but in memory. "Drake," Kale breathed. The figure didn't move at first. His gaze drifted over Kale's blade, then to Lyra and Drake, nor behind him. When his eyes finally met Kale's, there was silence. Then a slow smirk cracked across his face. "Still alive? Huh, little brother?" The air seemed to stop. The rift's unnatural storm dimmed behind them. as if even it paused to hear. Kale took a step forward, fists clenched. "You're supposed to be dead. Supposed to be," the elder Drake said with a shrug. "But you know me, I've always been too stubborn to stay down." Kale's mind raced. He remembered the Ember Brood collapse, the mass burial at Ember Deep. His brother had led the front lines against the first Eternal incursion and vanished. The guild assumed he died. Kale assumed he died. But there he stood, wearing the crest of the Ember Brood. "Impossible," Lyra murmured. Drake narrowed his eyes. "You should have burned." "I did," Drake Arclight replied with a quiet chuckle. "And I was reforged in the flame." Kale's voice cut through the moment. "Why didn't you come back?" Silence again. Drake's smile faded. His eyes darkened. "Because coming back would have meant watching Arena fall from the inside out. I've seen what lies beyond these dungeons. The real war isn't with monsters. It's with the ones who made them." Kale's breath caught. "The Eternals." Drake nodded. "And not just them. There's a faction, one that broke from the Eternals. They're trying to unchain something older. I went after them. You left me. I protected you." Drake snapped, voice rising. "You think I wanted you involved in this war? You think I wanted you fighting phantoms and revenants in rift zones?" Kale stepped closer. "You don't get to decide that for me." There was weight in his tone now. Not just rage, but will. "I fought my way out of a corrupted dungeon. I awakened Ashen Aura on my own. I carved through beasts and broke S-class barriers, because you weren't there. I became what I had to be. And now look at you," Drake said, half proud, half pained, wielding the Fong Soul Edge. "Do you even know what that blade is tied to?" Kale stayed silent. Drake raised a hand, and with a gesture, summoned his own weapon. A massive blade forged in molten black, jagged and heavy, etched in glowing runes. "Then let me show you." Without warning, he lunged. Kale barely raised his blade in time, sparks exploding as the two weapons clashed. Lyra shouted, preparing to shield him, but Kale barked. "No, this is mine." Clash of blades. Kale versus Drake Arclight. Skill unlocked. Ashen Pulse. Echo Aura after parry. Trait activated. Brood Sigil. Locked resonance with Bloodline. Enemy status. Unreadable. Aura Fluctuation. God tier potential. Every strike Kale made was met with overwhelming pressure. Drake's style was brutish but refined. Every swing tested Kale's limits. "You've improved," Drake said mid-combat, "but you're still just awakening. You don't know what the Fong Soul is truly for." "Then teach me." Drake's next blow knocked Kale off his feet, sending him sliding across bone tiles. Blood trickled down his lip, but he didn't stop. He launched himself forward, chaining Phantom Step with Soul Scorch, blade humming with adaptive fury. His aura burned black and silver. Drake's brows lifted. "That's it. Show me." They clashed again, and this time, Kale's aura surged beneath Drake's. The Ashen Aura grew in combat, evolved. The Fong Soul Edge shifted shape mid-strike, its tip blurring into a scythe-like hook. Kale used the moment to disarm Drake, blade locking behind his brother's back. One wrong move, and it would pierce through. Drake stopped, then laughed. "Well, damn," he whispered. "Maybe you really are ready." Kale held the blade tight. "Then talk." Drake slowly raised both hands in surrender. "Fair enough." Lyra and Drake Nor ran up, still wary. Drake Arclight looked at them, then back to Kale. "There's more than one rift. More than one Eternal. They're waking up, some already moving through high-tier guilds in disguise. Arena's fractured. The Vanguard's not enough." He looked at Kale dead on. "We need a force that isn't bound by the system." Kale exhaled. "A guild." "No," Drake said. "A creed. One that doesn't kneel to the council. One that remembers what aura really is." He looked at the trio. "I'm rebuilding the Ember Brood, and I want you in it." Kale stood frozen, the echoes of battle still trembling through his bones. The blade in his hand, the ever-shifting Fong Soul Edge, lowered slightly, its ember glow dimming like a heartbeat settling down after a sprint. Drake Arclight's words still hung in the air. "I'm rebuilding the Ember Brood, and I want you in it." Lyra took a cautious step closer, her hand lightly brushing Kale's arm. "You don't have to answer him now." But Kale's eyes never left his brother. "Why now?" Drake tilted his head. Because the Eternals aren't waiting. You saw it yourself in that rift. Revenants, twisted dungeons, broken rankings. Arena's hierarchy is crumbling. And the Sunspire Council? They're blind to it. Or worse, they're in on it. Drakner crossed his arms, eyes narrowed. You're saying they've been infiltrated? I'm saying, Drake said darkly, they're compromised. Every major guild operates under aura regulation protocols issued by the Council. But where did those protocols come from? He paused. Ever wonder why no one reaches transcendence anymore? Kale's jaw tightened. He had wondered. After awakening, the ranks climbed through tuning, resonance, eminence, but transcendence had become a myth. Rumors. Unconfirmed sightings. It was like someone cut the ladder short just before the top. Someone's capping the system, Drake confirmed. And the ones who break it vanish. Lyra's voice was quiet. Then what do? Drake's eyes gleamed. We break it harder. They made camp that night on the edge of the collapsed Revenant Zone. Broken structures hissed with dying aura, casting long shadows as Kale sat on a stone slab, staring at the Fong Soul edge. It pulsed faintly in his hands, responding to him, adapting. This blade, it wasn't just a weapon. It was alive. You look like you're ready to punch the moon, Drake Arclight said, walking over with a flask. He offered it. Kale didn't take it. What happened to you? Kale asked. After Ember Deep? Drake stared out toward the horizon. We lost half the squad the first day. The Eternal we fought, it wasn't like the ones from the records. It was aware. It spoke. It offered us power if we knelt. He looked down. Some of us almost did. Kale's voice was quiet. And you? I stabbed it through the throat, Drake said. But I didn't win. Not really. It marked me. He pulled aside part of his armor, revealing a glowing burn mark, like a rune etched into his skin. This is a curse. A tracker. A reminder. Kale stared at it. The markings pulsed in a rhythm. I was dying when the old Ember Brood pulled me out. We went underground. Rebuilt. I took up the title of Flame Bearer and waited for you. Kale finally met his eyes. Why me? Drake smiled faintly. Because you're not like me. You have the strength, but not the thirst. You feel things. Even now. Kale looked away. Don't confuse feeling with weakness, Drake added. It's what separates us from them. A pause. Will you join me? Kale stood. He paced a few steps before answering. No. Drake blinked. What? I'm not joining the Ember Brood, Kale said, facing him now with steady eyes. I'll fight the Eternals. I'll destroy their chain system. But I won't follow your banner. Drake's jaw tightened. You'd rather fight alone? I'm not alone, Kale replied, glancing toward the others. And I won't rebuild the old world. I'll create something new. For a moment, Drake looked furious. But then he laughed. Just like father, he muttered. Always the rebel. Kale raised the Fong Soul edge. We walk different paths, brother. But for now, they're parallel. Drake nodded. Then we fight as one. Until the fork comes. System notification, aura resonance detected. New trait unlocked. Ashen Vow. Your resolve manifests as aura. Allies who stand with you gain minor resistance to eternal corruption. New fusion progression. Sync fusion path 1 activated. Ashen Celestial Link. Passive healing increase under pressure. Beast Flames sync, pending. The next morning, Kale stood at the summit of the Broken Ridge. A message buzzed in his hunter's guide. New dungeon anomalies reported in Lyriel's Divide. Zara's message blinked beneath it. You're heading toward the Divide, aren't you? Careful. Something ancient stirs beneath the obsidian trees. Kale sheathed the Fong Soul. Then let's find out what's waiting. Behind him, Lyra adjusted her cloak. Drake nor cracked his knuckles, grinning. And together, the trio set out toward the Divide, toward the unknown. Toward war. The skies over Lyriel's Divide were not blue. They were ashen, a thick veil of fog choking the sunlight above the obsidian forest. Jagged black trees rose like spears, their bark marked with crimson scars. The land here felt wrong, not corrupted like a twisted dungeon, but older, like it had never healed from some ancient wound. Kale stepped forward, his boots crunching dried black leaves. His hand hovered near the hilt of his blade. The Fong Soul edge pulsed faintly in his aura field. Lyra moved beside him, voice low. These trees, they weren't always like this. Old records called Lyrials divide a sanctuary. Lush, pure. That purity's long gone. Drake nor mutter behind them. His infernal gauntlets shimmered orange with idle flame. Place feels like it's holding its breath. Kale knelt near one of the trees, pressing his palm against the bark. Cold, dead, but not from natural decay. Something's been draining the life here, he murmured. Lyra frowned. But how? There's no dungeon gate. Kale stood, narrowing his eyes as he scanned the terrain. Maybe not above ground. The group ventured deeper into the divide, weaving through the tall obsidian trunks. The deeper they walked, the quieter the world became. No wind, no birds, not even the whisper of aura creatures. Just stillness and pressure. A sudden chime rang through the silence. Kale's hunter guide flickered. A message. Aura field interference detected. Origin. Unknown subterranean source. Classification. Unregistered dungeon signature. Status. Sealed. Tier. Undefined. Drake snorted. Seal my ass. That's bleeding aura if I've ever felt it. Kale's eyes narrowed. It's not just aura. It's mixed. Something is fusing. Lyra's voice trembled. What does that mean? Before Kale could answer, the ground beneath them shuddered. Then it broke. They landed hard. Kale twisting mid-air to grab Lyra before they crashed onto a fractured platform of blackened stone. Drake landed like a meteor, cracking the floor beneath him. The space around them was massive. A hollow underground chamber, pulsing with veins of deep red aura. And at its center, a tree, towering, dead. Its roots sprawled across the cavern like chains, piercing through stone and fossilized corpses. Its bark glowed faintly, an ancient glyph pattern spiraling up its trunk. Kale stepped forward, his body humming with unease. This isn't a dungeon. Drake looked around. Feels more like a tomb. No, Kale whispered. A prison. System notification. Sealed entity proximity alert. Target. Eternal Seed. Designation. Veyron, the Withering Root. Status. Dormant. Threat level. SSS. Suppressed. Aura classification. Abyssal Celestial Hybrid. Access. Forbidden. Lyra's face paled. An eternal. Buried here. Kale gritted his teeth. No wonder the forest died. It's leeching the land. Suddenly, the dead tree trembled. A voice, hollow, cracked, and ancient, echoed through the cavern. Who walks this forgotten cradle? Aura exploded from the roots, cascading like a wave of pressure. Kale dropped to one knee, blood trickling from his nose. Lyra gasped, her healing aura barely shielding her. Drake stood tall, fists flaming. Come on, old bark. Wake up so I can burn you. But Kale's vision blurred. This wasn't just aura. It was memory. He stood in a field of white light. The tree was whole, blooming, and a childlike figure sat beneath it. Pale hair, eyes like mirrors. Do you wish to see the truth? The child asked. Or will you become another blade in the war? Kale opened his mouth, but the light swallowed him whole. He jolted awake. Drake was shouting. Kale! The roots were shifting. One had already coiled around Lyra's leg, pulling her toward the base of the tree. Kale didn't think. His aura surged. Ashen Veil, burst activation. His body flickered, burning shadow and flickering light, and he severed the root in one stroke, scooping Lyra into his arms and retreating. The tree screamed, and then the glyphs across its bark began to glow. Slowly, one by one, Kale stared at them. It's awakening. System alert. Aura sync expansion triggered. Warning. Sync fusion path recalibration required. Aura surge detected. Abyssal Celestial Hybrid. New path option. Domain fusion. Forbidden root bind. Compatibility. 37%. Status. Unstable. Kale's hand shook. He could feel the tree calling to him. Not with words, but with instinct. His ashen aura wasn't repelled. It was being invited. Drake caught his shoulder. Don't. You don't need to prove anything. Kale looked at him, fire dancing in his own irises. I'm not proving anything. He turned to face the tree, the glyphs now pulsing in rhythm. I'm here to sever the chain. The glyphs spiraling across the obsidian tree burned with blinding brilliance, twisting, reforming, as if decoding a language not meant for mortals. Aura swirled through the hollow like a storm caught in slow motion, each gust whispering memories not their own. Kale Arclight stepped forward, blade drawn, cloak flickering in the flux of power. His ashen aura shimmered like fractured glass, caught between light and shadow. Behind him, Lyra clutched her staff, face tense with worry. Kale, it's not just an eternal. It's a root of the others. A core. You can't face it alone. I'm not. Kale's voice was low, steady. He didn't look back. I have all your voices behind me. Drake cracked his knuckles, flame licking the air. Huh, that's the dumbest dramatic thing I've heard, and I like it. He launched himself toward one of the roots snaking from the central tree, infernal gauntlets blazing. Let's see if trees burn from the inside out. The cavern responded. Dozens of roots erupted from the ground, gnarled, glowing, each one twisted with remnants of aura. They weren't just appendages. They were memories made flesh. Kale dashed forward, his blade cutting through two of the reaching tendrils. They bled black mist that hissed when it touched the floor. Adaptive form, revenant step. He vanished for a blink, reappearing above the massive trunk, blade descending with full force. Fong Soul Edge, Soul Scorch. The slash connected, and the glyphs around the tree reeled. A crack opened along the bark, bleeding light that wasn't light. It pulsed like a heart, and from it, a face began to emerge. Pale, hollow-eyed, hair like roots. The face spoke not with voice, but aura. You carry the forgotten, the ashen spark. Do you not know what it means to sever eternity? Kale landed on a nearby root, barely keeping his footing as it twisted violently beneath him. I don't care what it means. He raised his blade again. I just know it has to end. Below, Lyra was struggling to keep the root creatures off their backs. Her staff flared golden as she chanted. Sunveil Pulse, Dawnwall. A radiant barrier surged up, shielding Kale's flank as three root beasts lunged. Her breathing was ragged, and her aura was flickering. She was pushing her limits. Kale, she cried. We're not going to hold long. Then I'll end it faster. Kale jumped, aura spiking higher than ever. System alert. Aura compatibility stabilizing. Forbidden fusion. Ashen plus abyssal celestial detected. Fusion type, domain. New skill path unlocked. Ashen root bind. Severance field. Risk level, critical. Proceed? Kale's eyes narrowed. Proceed. The world around him stilled. The air cracked like glass. Ashen light flooded the cavern, sweeping over every root, every beast. Where it touched, things slowed, like the memory forms were being forgotten, stripped away from reality itself. At the center of it all, Kale stood with his blade buried in the heart of the eternal tree. Ashen root bind, severance field. Aura exploded outward in silent devastation. Time wavered. The ground trembled. Roots withered and shattered. The glyphs cracked. The half-formed face of the eternal flickered, its image unraveling. You choose annihilation over understanding, so be it. The tree began to collapse. Kale dropped to one knee as his aura flared wildly. His chest burned, not from pain, but from change. System update. Aura threshold surpassed. Ashen class ascension. Revenant class advanced to Spectre-bound Blade Soul. New title gained, Severant. Current rank, A+. He could barely catch his breath. His blade felt heavier, yet more alive. His fingers trembled, but not from fear. From clarity. Behind him, Drake landed hard beside Lyra, both of them panting. You alive? Drake asked, voice strained. Kale stood slowly, staring at the collapsing ruin of the root tree. Still breathing. Lyra looked around. Where are we now? The exit is closed off. The cavern had changed. In place of the tree stood an altar, and above it, floating silently, was a black shard, veined with light. It pulsed with the same rhythm as Kale's heart. System notification, relic fragment detected. Name, Shard of Severance. Type, Core Relic Unbound. Status, Sync required. Aura, Trait. Memory Erosion. Drake whistled. So what? You kill an eternal root, and now you're some kind of aura god. Kale didn't smile. Not yet. He turned to the shard, reaching for it. I've only started cutting the chain. Far above the shattered cavern, hidden beneath the veil of Lyriel's divide, a pair of eyes watched. Zera Valeth, cloaked in cursed mist, whispered to no one. So the seed breaks, and the chain frays. What will you become, Kale Arclight? A flame to burn gods, or the blade that forgets its own name? She vanished. The divide fell silent once more. The wind howled through the high ridges of Lyriel's divide, shrieking like a wounded god. Kale Arclight stood at the threshold of the world, where the broken ground gave way to a valley choked in permanent twilight. His cloak fluttered behind him, now lined with veins of dark silver, the mark of the specter-bound blade soul. In his hand, the shard of severance pulsed faintly, feeding him echoes. Not words, memories. He saw glimpses of ancient wars, cities devoured by roots, titans falling to unseen blades. And in the deepest part of his mind, a voice repeated, "Sever, sever, sever." Behind him, Lyra clutched her staff tighter. You sure about this? The Abysslight region isn't even marked on sanction maps. Even the Sunspire avoids it. That's why we go, Kale muttered. Do we have a plan? Or just a suicidal death wish? Drake's tone was half joke, half dare. Kale didn't answer, because the moment he crossed into that shadowed path, the world shifted. System alert. You have entered a forbidden zone. Area. The hollow veins of Abysslight. Ambient aura. Corrupted celestial / echo-tainted. Estimated threat level. SSS. Adaptive challenge scaling engaged. The ground here wasn't dirt. It was fossilized aura, solid, glowing with spectral veins. Trees twisted in reverse, their leaves growing downward. The stars above flickered in reverse pulses, like dying memories. A low growl echoed from somewhere unseen. Drake's aura flared in instinct. We're not alone. Worse, Lyra murmured, eyes wide. We're not supposed to be here. Something moved. Not in sight, but in aura. A ripple passed through Kale's ashen veil. For a split second, he saw it. A towering beast made entirely of unclaimed memories. Hollow-eyed, dripping with echoes. Horns spiraling backward. Name, Varnak the Forgotten Warden. Type, Apex Remnant Beast. Aura, Echo Class. Rank SS. Status, bound to the Abysslight cycle. Reward, Core Fusion Catalyst, Liminal Fawn. Kale didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, tightening his grip on his blade. With strong aura, the warden moved like a thought turned violet. Its claws slashed across the air, warping reality. Drake barely dodged, flames erupting from his gauntlets as he retaliated. Beast Flame, Wild Fawn Blitz. But the creature phased, flickered, and appeared behind him. Kale intercepted mid-flash. Ashen Veil, Burnout Dash. His blade struck Varnak's core, only to be repelled with a shriek of echo feedback. The aura around them twisted into looping memories, replaying battle moments from just seconds ago. Shit, it's copying us. Not copying, Lyra said, desperately casting a barrier. It's re-experiencing. Kale felt it too. The beast wasn't just fighting them. It was learning, adapting with every second. Then we stopped giving it memories. His eyes lit with determination. Fusion detected. Ashen Aura plus Shard of Severance. Initiating Soul Break Sync. New skill unlocked. Echo Flame Excision. Effect. Renders targeted aura unable to reform for 10 seconds. Cool down. 3 minutes. Side effect. Temporary dissonance. Loss of self-memory. Kale gritted his teeth. He had to remember who he was. But just this once. He let go. He vanished. Reappeared behind the warden mid-flicker. Echo Flame Excision. A strike unlike any other carved through the creature's spine. Not flesh. Not aura. Memory itself was erased. The beast reared, screamed without sound, and shattered into glimmering fragments of forgotten time. The valley went still. Drake collapsed, panting. Okay, now that was new. Lyra looked at Kale, her eyes troubled. You all right? You were gone for a second. Like, not just physically. I couldn't feel you. Kale's expression was distant. He saw flashes. His childhood, Drake's laugh, Lyra's first smile. And then, gone. Just faint shadows of themselves. I'm fine, he lied. Let's move. System alert. Apex target defeated. Reward claimed. Liminal Fong core catalyst. Title gained. Memory severer. Passive bonus. Enemies take 20% longer to adapt to your combat style. Warning. Mental strain approaching limit. Hours later, the trio camped by a broken ruin, the stars above flickering oddly. Lyra set down her staff. This place is wrong. The aura doesn't rest. That's because it remembers too much, Kale muttered. He turned the liminal Fong in his hand, a tooth-like relic pulsing with echo light. Drake tilted his head. What even is this next phase we're walking into? What's in the core of Abyss Light? Kale answered with a whisper, something that even the Eternals sealed away. Far from them, deep within the hollow veins, a sound stirred. Not a growl, a whimper, and a chained god opened one eye. The hollow veins did not sleep. Even at night, the ground pulsed with muted color, shifting like a heartbeat beneath glass. Kale sat alone, staring into the dying embers of their campfire, his eyes reflecting no light. He hadn't slept. Couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, memories he didn't own bled into his mind. A child's scream, a battlefield lit with green fire, a tower crumbling in reverse. His own face, but older, crueler. A whisper echoed inside his skull. How many selves must you burn before one survives? Kale clenched the liminal Fong tighter. It hummed in reply, vibrating with a pulse that wasn't quite alive. Behind him, Lyra stirred. Her eyes, usually gentle, were tired now. You're slipping again. I'm holding on. Barely. She walked closer, gently sitting beside him. I don't want to lose you to this place. Kale didn't answer. The fire crackled. Wind slid between the trees with soft, melodic hums, like lullabies sung by ghosts. Then Drake snorted from the other side of the camp. TCH, you two done whispering sweet nothings? Because we got incoming. Kale stood instantly. System alert. Aura disturbance detected. Classification. Apex Phantom type. Codename. Velhara, the Lost Star. Aura class. Celestial Wraith, S+. Status. Fallen astral entity. Bound to forgotten orbit. Warning. Enemy exists outside natural time cycles. Ability. Chronodissonance. A silver glow burst through the trees. Then silence. No sound. No birds. Not even wind. Only a gentle, floating shimmer. The figure that emerged was both beautiful and terrifying. A woman in tattered robes, her face veiled with stardust. Her body drifted like it remembered how to walk but had forgotten why. Dozens of orbiting fragments floated around her, small moons, glowing with bleeding light. Drake's voice was hushed. That thing has aura satellites. No, Kale whispered. She is the satellite. Velhara turned to face them. Her lips did not move. But they all heard her. Where's my orbit? Who stole my dawn? Lyra gasped. She's trapped in a time loop. Then, without warning, Velhara raised her hand. The stars stopped spinning, and time bent. Kale moved, but too late. The world froze. Except it didn't. It just remembered a different version of itself. Velhara stepped forward, arms outstretched. She split into 3 versions: past, present, future. Each one slashed at him with aura blades of astral memory. Kale raised his weapon, but it passed through the first, hit the second, was countered by the third. Blood painted the air, but not his. Drake, blazing in flame, had intercepted the final strike. Don't just stand there, damn it, he growled. I didn't come all this way to see you glitch into a puddle. Kale gritted his teeth. He pulled. Ashen Veil, Soul-Scorched Surge. New fusion path triggered. Celestial Echo plus Ashen Core. Aura Fusion. Chrono Ashen Sync. Temporary skill unlocked. Starfade Rewind. Effect. Rewind your aura state by 5 seconds. 1 use per battle. Warning, can fragment identity if overused. He activated it. Time snapped. Suddenly, he was 5 seconds earlier, just before Velhara attacked. Now he moved first. Kale leapt, blade trailing ash flame, intercepting her temporal shade. He stabbed through the future version, severing the line of possibility. Echo flame excision. Velhara's form shuddered. The orbiting moons exploded outward like glass. Drake didn't miss the moment. Infernal gauntlets, beast flame rampage. Flames turned gold as he struck Velhara's core, sending cracks through her celestial shell. Lyra, chanting softly behind them, raised the sun veil feather. Solar redemption, Nova Pulse. A burst of pure light enveloped the fading wraith. Velhara screamed and smiled. Thank you for reminding me of my orbit. Then, she shattered. System alert. Apex target neutralized. Core claimed. Orbitless memory. Special item, Starseal fragment. Title earned. Wakers of the Lost Star. Passive. Slight resistance to chronotype aura effects. Warning. Aura instability detected in protagonist. Sync level exceeding safe limit. Kale collapsed to one knee. His hands trembled. He looked at Lyra, her worried eyes. At Drake, panting, bruised but alive. And yet, he wasn't sure he was. Because in his mind, a memory echoed. Of Velhara, of her orbit, and of himself, alone, floating in a shattered sky, screaming for a dawn that never came. He whispered to no one, "Who am I becoming?" And from far above, the real stars blinked. The sky above the hollow veins fractured like glass. Not metaphorically, Kale saw the lines. Shimmering cracks zigzagging through the firmament, seeping ethereal mist into the atmosphere. A shimmer of something not of this world bled through the seams. He could feel it pressing against his skin like frost and flame at once. And then he felt it again, the same pulse he had felt when he resisted the eye of eternity. But this time, it wasn't an eye watching him. It was a reflection. He stood alone on the obsidian platform, Lyra and Drake still recovering from their battle with Velhara's paradox echo. Zara stood a few paces behind him, arms crossed, silver eyes narrowed. What the hell is that? Drake rasped, one hand on his scorched gauntlet. His flames had gone dim since their last clash. He hadn't recovered fully, and neither had Kale. Kale didn't answer. His own reflection shimmered in front of him. No, not a reflection. A being. It looked exactly like him. Same stance. Same armor. Same ash-gray hair tousled and spiked. Same dead serious eyes. But its aura was off. The colors were wrong. Where Kale's aura shifted like smoke and embers, this one was crystalline and jagged, pulsing with corrupted light. It stepped forward. Kale tensed. His fingers curled over liminal Fong's hilt. Is that another echo? No, Zara said softly. That's you. Or rather, a version of what you could become. The doppelganger tilted its head and grinned. It whispered in a voice twisted and broken. Oh, what a strong aura. Kale's blood turned to ice. No one else should say that. No one else could. Without thinking, he leapt forward. Blades drawn, eyes sharp. His aura surged, ashen, wild alive. A burst of burnout dash shot him toward the figure, and in a blur, his blade clashed against the twins. A flash of sparks. Kale grunted, then skidded back, boots scraping against obsidian. The doppelganger didn't move. It stood still, smiling, mocking. I didn't say it was a compliment, it said. I said it because you're finally worth killing. Kale's teeth clenched. Then come try. The doppelganger moved. It didn't dash, it phased, like it bent the air around it, flickering between time frames. Kale barely had a moment to react. He crossed his blades in a defensive X, just in time to block a flurry of strikes that came from every direction. Drake cursed behind him. Shit, he's copying your moves. No, Lyra murmured. He's perfecting them. Kale staggered, a slash grazing his shoulder. His blood flicked into the air, sizzling against the obsidian stone. He fell into revenant form. Ashen tendrils snaked around his arms, cloaking him in a second skin of flowing aura. Then he activated Soul Scorch. Ash flared from his strikes, carving crescent burns through the air. The doppelganger weaved around them like water, until Kale fainted low, then brought his knee up into its chin. The strike connected, barely, but the doppelganger vanished into mist mid-impact. "Tisich," Kale muttered. "He's adapting too fast." "You're not just fighting yourself," Zara said calmly. "You're fighting your potential. The part of you that wants power without limit. The part of you that will burn everything if it means becoming the strongest." Kale hesitated, breath ragged. "Then I'll carve my own path." The twin reappeared above him, hands glowing black with an unfamiliar skill, Void Wreath. Kale's eyes widened. That was his move, but he hadn't even unlocked it yet. How the hell does he know what I'm going to become? The twin crashed down. Kale raised his blades, too slow, and then, clang, a flare of golden light burst between them, a shield of radiant feathers. "Lyra, not alone," she said, sweat streaming down her face. "Not this time." Drake roared from behind, fist igniting again. "If we're punching destiny in the face, count me in." They charged together, Kale, Lyra, Drake. The twins shifted again, face twisting into a manic grin. The battlefield erupted in chaos. Shadow clones, corrupted aura constructs, time-fractured attacks. Each of them faced a piece of the future Kale could become. Kale struck left, cleaving through a tendril of obsidian. Lyra blocked a barrage of spectral daggers with a celestial barrier. Drake tackled a clone, flaming fists shattering the illusion. Together, they fought in sync, like a unit. But then, the twin whispered again, this time into Kale's head. "They'll leave you. They'll fear you. When you become me, they'll be the first to fall." Kale paused for half a second. It was enough. The twin pierced his guard, palm thrusting forward, right in his chest. A ripple of dark aura surged into Kale's core. His knees buckled, vision blurred, and then he was elsewhere. He stood in a field of ash. Alone. The sky was black. The world was gone. Nothing but ruin. And in front of him, again, was himself. But not corrupted. Not violent. Just tired. "Why do you keep fighting it?" the other Kale asked, voice gentle. "We could end all this suffering. All this war. You know the truth now." Kale staggered forward. "That's not me. That's you, broken by the system. I'm not giving in." "You will. One loss at a time." Kale clenched his fists. "I'm not here to dominate this world," he said slowly, fire building in his chest. "I'm here to change it." A pulse of ashen aura exploded outward, burning away the vision. Back in the veins, Kale surged upward with renewed power. Ashen domain, resonant core unlocked. His blades burned brighter than before. His eyes shimmered with light and storm. The twin flinched, and Kale struck. One clean slash. The twin dissolved into sparks, whispering with a smirk, "We'll meet again." Silence. Drake panted. "Is he gone?" "No," Kale said softly. "He's just waiting. Inside me." Zara stepped forward. "You've taken another step, Kale. But be warned, the stronger your aura becomes, the thinner the veil gets. Soon, the real Eternals will come." Kale looked up at the fractured sky. A sliver of gold bled through, and something beyond it stirred. The aftermath of Valhara's defeat was anything but peace. A pulse echoed through the broken chambers of the hollow veins. Not from her. She was gone, but from something deeper. Ancient. Hungrier. Kale stood amidst the shattered illusions, chest rising and falling with effort. Ashen aura still crackled faintly along his arms, fractured like smoke stitched with embers. Lyra knelt nearby, her sun veil, feather glowing dimly, struggling to keep Drake Norse stable as his body smoldered from overdrawn beast flame. Zara, silent, watched the cracked ceiling with unreadable eyes. "She's not the real threat," she murmured at last. Kale turned his head slowly. "What?" Valhara was only a tether, a fragment of a larger whole. A sentinel, one of 7 left behind to watch this realm. She was bound to memory. Bound to memory? Lyra echoed weakly. Then why did she speak of Kale's fate? Zara tilted her head. "Because he's linked to the final chain. The last unbroken seal." Kale clenched his fists, stepping forward. No more riddles, Zera. I've bled. I've fought. I've buried friends. Just say it. She met his gaze. When the 7 sentinels fall, the real Eternals awaken. And they'll come for the Ashen God. The silence that followed swallowed all sound. Even the lingering echoes of the battle died. You mean me? Zera nodded once. Your aura isn't just adaptive. It's convergence itself. Ashen is the final color, a paradox formed when all opposing auras clash and collapse. Your very existence breaks the balance. Kale turned away, gripping the hilt of his relic. Then maybe it's time to stop playing balance. Sunspire Citadel, hours later. Vale Solane stared at the fractured skies above Solmaris. Velhara's death had sent out a wave of distortion. Half the upper skies shimmered with fissures, signs that the boundary between the realms had weakened. The Vanguard scouts were panicking. Reports of monsters shifting in class, dungeons warping overnight, and relics turning unstable were growing by the hour. And worst of all, Kale Arclight's aura signature had spiked beyond any charted rank. Even the ancient Resonance Codex couldn't register him. She closed her eyes and muttered a silent oath. The next time we meet, Kale, you will answer. Back at the Hollow Veyne's makeshift shelter, Drake lay wrapped in makeshift solar wraps as Lyra tended to him. His breathing had stabilized, though the burn scars over his chest still pulsed red. Damn idiot, Lyra muttered under her breath. Overdrew everything just to burn through that illusion. Drake chuckled faintly. It worked, didn't it? Kale sat by a dim crystal fire, gazed distant. The ashen aura around him no longer flickered wildly. It pulsed like a heart. Controlled. Waiting. Zera approached, her wraith bell hanging silent for once. You've broken through eminence, haven't you? She asked. Kale didn't respond. You're on the edge of transcendence. But there's a price to pay. Ashen doesn't evolve alone. It devours. He stood slowly. Then let it devour. Are you ready to lose yourself for power? No, he said. I'm ready to lose what's left of this world to build something better. Elsewhere, unknown realm. Far beyond Aurenia, past the last known star folds, in the hidden ruins of an eternal vault, a sleeping presence stirred. It wasn't Velhara. This one wore no name. It had forgotten time, forgotten speech. It only remembered one thing. Ashen. A pulse answered from the realm below. Kale's aura. The presence opened its unseen eyes. The Ashen God had awakened, and the real war was just beginning. The sky over Aurenia had never looked so wrong. Above Solmaris, the light of dawn fractured like glass, casting prismatic shadows over the city's golden spires. Birds didn't sing. Magic tech airships stalled mid-flight. Even the wind seemed hesitant, caught between fleeing and watching. The boundary had cracked. Kale Arclight stood on the edge of a Sunspire cliff, ash trailing from his boots. His aura flickered unnaturally, charcoal streaked with molten silver, coiling like smoke learning to breathe. Behind him, Lyra approached, her expression tight with both awe and fear. You feel it too, she said. Kale didn't look back. The air is too still, like the world is holding its breath. Lyra nodded. They're calling it the Broken Dawn. Since Velhara fell, for new dungeons opened overnight. All uncharted. All warping aura patterns across the continent. And the Vanguard? Kale asked. Vale has her hands full. Drake's helping lead containment. But people are scared, Kale. They don't understand what's happening. I do, Kale muttered. This is a signal. Lyra hesitated. From who? Kale turned, his eyes sharper than before, like blades waiting to be drawn. From them. Elsewhere, the fallow depths. A dungeon unlike any charted before bloomed in the heart of the Dusker Wastes. Its entrance looked like a tree turned inside out, roots twisting toward the sky, bark made of obsidian marrow, and its leaves? None. Only drifting echoes that moaned like memory. Inside, 6 silhouettes stood beneath a pulsating monolith. Each was veiled in silence. One with wings made of shadow. Another whose skin cracked with celestial light. One held a mask, blank as the void. The others stood motionless, waiting. Then a voice broke the quiet. "It has begun," said the winged one. "The final key has awakened. And Velhara has failed," added the masked eternal. "We knew she would," said the tallest. "But her failure served its purpose. The Ashen has tasted power." The monolith flared. "Then it is time," said the one with the cracked skin. "Time we prepared for our descent." Sunspire, Vanguard Assembly Hall. Inside the golden walls of the Sunspire Vanguard, Vale Solane addressed her core generals. Maps floated mid-air, showing rapid dungeon growth, aura disruption points, and unstable relic zones. "This isn't a natural surge," she said. "This is a pattern." Zara Valeth leaned against the edge of the room, arms folded. "Of course it is," she said softly. Kale broke the last thread. "The rest of the Eternals are reacting to that." "You keep speaking like you know them," Vale snapped. Zara only smirked. "Because I do." Everyone in the room froze. Vale stepped forward. "Explain." "I was born during the first fracture, before the Codex was rewritten, before the world decided to forget the cost of balance. My aura? It wasn't just cursed. It was contaminated, touched by the Eternals themselves." Silence. Zara pushed off the wall and walked toward the center. "There's no stopping what's coming. There's only one chance left. You either bet on the Ashen God, or you pray to vanish quickly." Kale's hideout, Ashen Hollow. Lyra sat near the fire, clutching the Sunveil feather like a lifeline. Drake paced nearby, his infernal gauntlets glowing faintly. Kale, seated in the shadows, let his blade rest on his lap. "What now?" Lyra asked. "We can't keep running. We've already made enemies of the Vanguard. And if what Zara said is true—" "They're coming," Kale said. "Not one by one. All at once. Then what the hell do we do?" Drake growled. Kale stood. "We strike first." Drake's eyes lit up. "You serious?" Kale nodded. "We go to the Fallow Depths. That new dungeon. The one they're hiding in." Lyra's voice shook. "That's suicide." "No," Kale replied. "That's war." The Fallow Depths didn't feel like a dungeon. It felt like a scar, ripped open and festering beneath the skin of the world. Kale, Lyra, and Drake stood before the massive obsidian roots that coiled like petrified serpents toward the sky. Aura in the air trembled, responding to Kale's presence, his ashen aura drawing whispers from the earth itself. Their relics thrummed, agitated. "A warning. This place," Lyra murmured. "It's alive." "No, it's listening," Kale corrected, eyes narrowing. "Let's not disappoint it." They stepped in. Inside, the light changed. Not darker, just wrong. Colors bled into each other like they were melting, and the walls pulsed with faint heartbeats. The deeper they walked, the more fragmented time became. Sometimes footsteps echoed before they landed. Sometimes not at all. Drake clenched his fists. "I hate this place already." "We're close to something ancient," Lyra whispered. "I can feel it gnawing in my aura." Kale stopped. Ahead, the corridor split, 12 branching paths, all identical. "Maze type," Drake muttered. "Classic eternal mind game." Kale's aura flared. He closed his eyes. Ash spiraled from his skin, threading through the paths like tendrils of instinct. Then, with certainty, he pointed left. "This one." Lyra blinked. "How do you know?" "I don't," Kale replied. "But my aura does." They pressed forward. The hallway opened into a wide chamber, and what they saw wasn't a boss, but a memory. Dozens of corpses lined the walls, frozen in combat poses. Adventurers, guild leaders, even one Vanguard officer. Their bodies were intact but hollow, like their auras had been ripped out. And in the center, something stirred. It wasn't a monster. It was a mirror. Kale approached slowly, the reflection shifting. His own face stared back, but older, paler, a crown of black flame etched into his brow. "The Ashen God." "Don't," Lyra warned. But Kale touched it. The mirror shattered, and the pieces flew into him. Flash. He was somewhere else. The world burned around him. Ash rained from a dying sky. Titans roared in the distance, Eternals locked in battle. And at the center of it all, Kale stood alone, no allies. No friends, just the sword in his hand and corpses at his feet. His own voice echoed from nowhere. Oh, what a strong aura. The vision ended. Kale staggered back into the present, gasping. The chamber was quiet again. What did you see? Drake asked. A warning, Kale said softly. Or a promise. Elsewhere, eternal conclave. The monolith pulsed. The veiled Eternals stirred. He's entered the depths, said the winged one. He saw the glimpse, added the masked one. Good. The seed takes root. Then release the herald, said the tallest. At once a rift opened, and from it, a monster descended. Not just powerful, but designed to counter Kale. Its aura was inverted ash, its limbs forged from Kale's stolen echoes. A dark mirror of his own soul. Back in the depths, the air turned cold. The chamber trembled. Then came the footsteps. Kale turned as the monster stepped through the far gate. It looked like him, moved like him, but its eyes were empty. I am your undoing, it said in a voice warped by 10,000 screams. Kale's aura flared. So did his blade. Then let's see if you're strong enough to break me. Drake cracked his neck. Time to burn something. Lyra raised her relic, wings of light spreading. And Kale? He smiled. Oh, what a strong aura. The creature lunged. Kale barely dodged the swipe, ash trailing behind him as the echo of himself. This twisted, empty thing followed like a phantom in lockstep. Its blade, eerily similar to his soul brand, crashed into the stone, splitting it with a shockwave of corrupted aura. Lyra's wings burst with radiant flares as she cast a shield around Kale. We can't let it touch you. That thing's made to tear your soul apart. I know. Kale grunted, sliding back and clashing blades again. The force rattled his bones. It's reading me. Every move, every breath. Drake didn't wait for a cue. He shot forward, gauntlets ablaze with beast flame. Then let me give it something unpredictable. His punch cracked the mirror creature's ribs, barely. The thing didn't even flinch. It twisted unnaturally, its joints bending in ways that defied human structure, and slammed a knee into Drake's gut, sending him hurtling into a wall. Kale's eyes widened. It had his speed, his instinct, but no hesitation. That made it even deadlier. You want a worthy opponent, Kale? It rasped. Here I am, born from your sins, your rage, your limit. Ash flared around Kale's feet as he gritted his teeth and launched forward again, blades meeting in a blur of cuts, slashes, feints. Every time he adapted, the creature matched him. No, it evolved. Ashen Veil. Kale vanished in a blur. The creature did too. Then two silhouettes appeared midair, striking, vanishing, reappearing again in a dance of flickers and flashes. Each hit brought whispers from the chamber, echoes of Kale's past, his regrets, the people he failed to save. The dungeon collapse. Arclight blood on his hands. Kale! Lyra cried, extending her aura. Let me anchor you. No, he growled. I need this. Flashback, unknown memory. A younger Kale stood over a fallen friend. His hands were trembling. His aura fractured. A voice behind him. Your greatest enemy won't be some eternal. Boy, it'll be the version of you that gives in. Kale's aura exploded. No longer ashen gray, but burning black and silver. The chamber couldn't contain it. All right, Kale whispered. This is my soul. He surged forward. His blade didn't just meet the creature's. It broke through it. Not with power, but intent. Pure, sharp and will. The creature reeled, eyes wide for the first time. Kale landed behind it. A pause. Then, slash. The creature fell in two clean halves, disintegrating into ash and whispers. Silence. Drake pulled himself from the rubble. That it? No. Kale exhaled, shoulders shaking. That was the gatekeeper. Lyra approached, touching his arm. You changed. I remembered who I am, Kale said. Not just a vessel, not a weapon. I'm me, and I don't need to be perfect. I just need to be stronger than I was yesterday. Drake smirked. Poetic. Kale cracked a smile. Shut up. Then the floor beneath them lit up. 12 runes. 12 new paths. Each one humming with an aura so intense it made their relics shudder. Lyra whispered, these are trials. Meant for ascension. Drake glanced at them. 12 paths. 3 of us. Kale looked forward, grip tightening on his blade. Then we split. Elsewhere, Noctheron Marsh. The skies darkened. From a marsh rose a figure cloaked in mist, Zara Valeth. Her wraith bell pulsed faintly as echoes gathered around her. "They've reached the trial gate," she said softly. Behind her, a figure cloaked in eternal shadow stepped forward. "Carrie's Nitrain. Then everything begins now." The three stood in silence, staring at the runes that spiraled outward across the ancient chamber floor. Each one glowed with a different hue, each humming with elemental intensity. Celestial light, beast flame, cursed mist, shadow frost, thunderhowl, obsidian earth, blood gale, azure wind, abyssal depth, verdant bloom, echo flame, and at the center, one pulsed between all colors, ashen void. Kale felt a pull, not toward the center, but toward the one that seared with primal, chaotic red. Beast flame, the path that resonated with fury and raw violence. It wasn't his aura, but it called to something in him. Drake stepped forward, already drawn to it. "Guess this one's mine." Kale met his eyes. "You sure?" Drake cracked his neck, then his knuckles. "If I'm gonna break past S rank, it has to be through fire." Without another word, Drake walked into the gate of searing red. The glyph flared, swallowed him whole, and vanished. Kale turned to Lyra. She was staring at the golden white rune. "Celestial light. You okay?" Kale asked. "I was raised to believe light brings truth," she murmured. "But what if it shows something I don't want to see?" Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then don't look away." She offered a small, sad smile. "You've changed. So have you." She nodded, then stepped into the light. Her wings pulsed once, and she vanished. Kale turned to the remaining runes. All were fading now, locking themselves except for one. The center, the ashen void. It pulsed with eerie silence. "Figures," Kale muttered. Then he stepped in. Inside the path of the ashen void. It wasn't a room. It was a memory, fractured and stretched. Kale stood in an endless field of bone-white ash under a black sun. Above him, drifting like spirits, were thousands of swords. Each one represented a life lost. Some familiar, others alien. He stepped forward. With each step, one of the swords dropped, embedding itself near his feet. A voice echoed. "You bear the weight of what you kill, Kale Arclight." He looked around. No figure, just the voice. "You steal their power. You take their aura. But do you carry their pain?" "I never asked for this," Kale replied. "Yet you accept it. Every time you draw that blade." A single sword fell faster than the rest. When it hit the ground, it split it. From the crack rose a form. Twisted, burned, screaming. Kale stepped back. It was a soldier. One of the Ember Brood. One he'd killed when he first awakened his ashen aura. The soldier looked up at him. "You didn't even know my name." Kale's fist tightened. "Then tell me now." The soldier snarled. "It's too late." It lunged. Kale parried, but more cracks appeared. More figures emerged. Dozens. Hundreds. Every person, monster, creature he'd ever slain. Now given voice. Given form. "You were supposed to protect us. You left me behind. You let the dungeon collapse." Their voices rose in a wave of hatred and sorrow. Kale swung, cutting through illusions. But the more he fought, the heavier his blade became. Soulbrand groaned in his hand. "Fight me all you want," the voice said again. "But you can't escape truth. You feed on death." Kale dropped to a knee. The ground shook with the weight of his guilt. But he didn't close his eyes. He looked forward and whispered, "Then let it be mine." He stood, aura pulsing not in hatred, not in rage, but acceptance. He didn't erase what he'd done. He carried it. He was ashen, and ashen does not forget. Outside, the center rune burst with blinding black and silver light. And Kale stepped out, not bleeding, not screaming, but whole. A second Soulbrand now hovered behind him, half spirit, half memory. A second blade of ash, an echo of every fight he'd survived. Meanwhile, Celestial Path. Lyra knelt before a vision of herself. Pure, untouched, divine. It smiled at her, but it whispered lies. "You're not ready. You heal monsters. You side with him. You're not light. You're lost." Her wings trembled. Her relic, the Sunveil feather, burned hot in her hands. She looked up, and for the first time, she shouted, "Then I'll be the light that chooses." She cast the shadow away and ascended. Beast Flame Trial. Drake was mid-battle, arms broken, flames dimmed. He grinned through bloodied teeth. A monstrous version of himself loomed, snarling. "You burn everything you touch." "I'm the fire," Drake roared, and punched through his own nightmare. The flame roared to life, and his relic evolved. Back in the central chamber, 3 runes lit. 3 figures stepped out. Changed. Wounded. Ready. Kale. Lyra. Drake. Their eyes met. Kale spoke first. "We're not done." Drake smirked. "Not even close." Lyra tightened her grip. "Then let's go break the next chain." As the dungeon rumbled again, a door slid open at the far end, and something ancient screamed. Nocturne Marsh. The very name choked the throat like a whispered curse. A place where even sunlight dared not linger, where the fog moved like it had a will, and the silence was never truly empty. Kale stood at the edge of the warped path, his eyes fixed on the brackish horizon. The fog twisted ahead like grasping hands. Behind him, Lyra adjusted the feathered relic on her wrist, its soft glow casting halos in the gloom. Drake, less subtle, cracked his neck, infernal gauntlets pulsing with barely contained heat that sizzled against the marsh's cold air. "Smells like a rotting god's armpit," Drake muttered. Kale didn't respond. His mind was elsewhere, locked on the intel Zera had left them. Nocturne's core is shifting. Something stirs beneath the weeping hollow. If you hear your name whispered in the fog, don't answer. But Kale had already heard it. Last night, a breath at the edge of his dream. Kale. His name, soft as broken glass sliding across stone. He hadn't told the others. Not yet, because he recognized the voice. It was his brother's. Hours earlier, hidden encampment near the marsh. Zera stood beneath the skeletal remains of a drowned temple, her relic, Wraith Bell, dangling from her finger like a spider on silk. Around her, cursed spirits writhed, trapped echoes drawn to her aura. Each moaned in languages forgotten by time. One voice, however, came clearly through the bell. "He's walking into the maw. He'll see the truth soon enough." Zera's eyes narrowed. Which one? The brother, or the weapon? No response, only laughter, from something ancient, and not quite dead. Back to Kale's squad, entering the marsh. As they stepped into the mist, the ground turned slick, sucking at their boots like the marsh wanted to swallow them. "Visuals down to 30 meters, Lyra said, voice hushed. "This place feels wrong." "No aura beasts on radar," Drake muttered. "Either they're hiding, or we're the only things alive." Kale kept his soul brand close. The ash edge vibrated slightly, more out of warning than excitement. Then they heard it. A distant bell. Soft. Wavering. "Zera," Lyra whispered. "No," Kale said. "It's not hers." From the fog, a figure began to walk forward. Human-shaped, but wrong. Its face was made of stitched fog, barely stable. And it wore the same armor as the Ember Brood. Kale raised his blade, but then it spoke. Oh, what a strong aura. Kale froze. That line. That was his line. The creature charged. "Combat, Echo Beast." Kale met the charge, blades clashing midair. Each strike echoed not just through steel, but through memories. This thing was stealing his moves, mirroring his ashen form. Lyra tried to cast a shielding light, but it bent away as if the marsh itself rejected the healing. Drake launched a blaze fist, but the fog absorbed it like smoke to lungs. Kale gritted his teeth and activated his skill, Burnout Dash. He shot behind the creature and slashed across its back, only for the fog to restitch instantly. "It's not real," Kale growled. "It's built on my echo." Zera's words returned. "If you hear your name in the fog, don't answer." But Kale had answered, and this was his punishment. Kale's inner vision. The marsh fell away for a moment, and he stood in front of his brother. Drake Arclight, eyes hollow, ash leaking from his skin. "You left me," Drake whispered. "You let the Ember Brood burn." Kale stepped forward. "I couldn't stop it." "You didn't even try." Kale raised his blade, but his brother didn't attack. He just turned to ash. The real enemy was behind him. A robed, maskless eternal, eyes glowing with a hungry void. You resist me still, but the marsh knows all your scars, Kale. Back in reality, Kale came just in time to see the echo beast reaching for Lyra. He snapped, soul scorch. Ash exploded from his body, igniting the fog. The creature screamed, its voice warping back into a mimic of Kale's younger self. Drake grabbed Lyra and pulled her back. Kale charged through the smoke and stabbed deep into the core of the beast. Aura isn't just power, he growled. It's choice. He twisted Soulbrand. The echo beast shattered into fog and silence. Aftermath. Lyra dropped to a knee. That thing knew your skills. Your thoughts. Kale nodded. The marsh doesn't just mirror power. It mirrors guilt. Drake crossed his arms. Then what's it going to show me? My deepest regret is skipping dessert last week. Kale smirked, but his eyes were hard. We're just getting started. Deeper in, they approached the Weeping Hollow. A massive crater filled with liquid shadow. Floating above it, barely visible in the gloom, was a massive chained obelisk, pulsing with aura. That's not natural, Lyra said. It's a seal, Kale murmured. Something inside the hollow was trying to get out, and the chains were breaking. One by one,